Hello, welcome to the Old Man Orange podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan. And fuck, I don't know if I know how to do this anymore.
I know it has been a while. I don't know what happened though, but like at some point a fucking snowstorm happened and it just crapped out AT&T for me. So I have to go like travel. It's like the olden days. I have to travel for internet. Like, where is this internet? You must travel for it. You know, I'm at that point again now because it's stupid. It's just at the house it does the thing where it's like in, out, 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 in, out. So like, you know, you can't really do anything.
You gotta do the thing.
I mean, it works and then it goes off.
You send a carrier pigeon out, like a horse and stable comes by, or a horse drawn by carriage comes by, like, where to, my good man? Like, the internet cafe.
Yeah, exactly. Take me there. Let me see the future. You know? Because, yeah, it's just stupid. Because it's like, it's not that it's slow. It's just the in, out thing. And I keep trying to find and be like, yo, your fucking tower is fucked. Send a guy out there to check it out. Like, is it your route? No. It's not anything of mine. It's literally a tower. It's literally nothing I can do. There is nothing I can do. It's just everything from everything that the AT&T light touches is going in and out. It worked for 20 fucking years. Don't you fucking tell me now that this is it. Don't you tell me to flip a fucking router. I'll flip your router.
Like, we get that at least one a day. They just, like, have, like, a board of, like, I'll flip your router and just, like, check it off.
Oh, yeah, got a 6-1. Oh, dude, Harry's in the lead. He's got 8 people flipping routers. Oh, that son of a fucking bitch, Harry. You better not get that fucking promotion. I love that. That's how the AT&T promotional wagon works. Is like however many times you get insulted in the day is how it works towards credits towards your promotion.
It's just that thing, like they have it written above, like the over the door frame as they walk in. Like, did you flip the router? They all slap it on their way in. You know,
fuck that router.
No, so been a minute since we did this. Last time we did an episode.
Back to podcasting goodness.
Last time we did an episode was the Christmas special thing, and that was something different. We might try and do more, like skits like that later down the line. But yeah.
Yeah, that would be fun. I think that the little skit ideas, I know we've talked about it 1,000 times before and finally did it. But, yeah, I know. I think that there's no reason not to do that. You know what I mean? Something kind of fun, something different. I know, like, everybody who wants us to do animations be like, fuck you, just do the animation. Like, you don't got anything better to do. Fucking drunk Batman
You're right,
died.
we don't, but
yeah,
we don't have anything better to do, but it's just a matter of, like, it takes a
life.
long fucking time.
Exactly, you know what I mean? Like, you know? So that's where you're like, you see those kids out there that just fucking, like, go, like, just swipe credit cards every single time they want to get something done. And it's like, huh. That's how you get a lot of YouTube videos on there. I see how it is. But beyond all that bullshit, we're going to our top movies of 2019. And I know we kind of got to about the end of January, but sometimes I feel January is the month where you're spending, like, they're finally coming out on DVD and Blu-ray for all the ones you kind of missed, and you're doing the catch-up game and so on. And no matter what, we've always learned that you could never watch them all, and there'll always be that movie that, like, 4 years from now, you watch and you're like, dude, what the fuck? That would have almost been, like, in my top, like, 3, maybe even top 1 movie, you know what I mean? You'll find that one rare gem that nobody just really brought up enough and so on, but yeah, this is an interesting year. This is definitely not like any other normal year.
Yeah, this year, I'll be honest, there's a lot of movies that, I didn't see as many movies as usual. I did. I can't talk right now. I didn't see as movies as I usually do, but at the same time, like, I still liked what I have on my list. There's some things that are higher on my list that I thought would be lower, and some things that are lower that I thought would be higher, but at the end of the day, it's, it's your list. It is what it is.
Exactly. Well, it's an odd year for, like, I just feel like even just movies in general, all the real big movies came out at the beginning of the year, and you almost never really say that. Everybody almost saves stuff towards the end, and I just remember I thought that was the weirdest thing, is because, like, around that December time period, I was like, I went to the movie theaters, like, twice. It's like, most of the time, it's always like, shit, there's, like, a week where, like, you're just going every single day. You're like, gotta check them off, check this list down, working through it. And this year was like, well, I saw Star Wars, and I can't remember what the fucking other movie was that I saw like during December, but like that was it. You know what I mean? It was like, that's a lackluster end to the year, but that's okay because the beginning of the year is fucking badass.
Well, in all honesty, I mean, you had probably, and this isn't, I'm not trying to speak on where this stands in anyone's lineup, but you had probably one of the biggest blockbusters of all time in April. Not in like
yeah, literally.
You didn't have it. Yeah. You didn't have it popping up like in like, July or August. You had it in April. So that seemed, so everything after that, not saying that they're bad or good, but every like big blockbuster after that movie was kind of like, not saying it wasn't good, but it just was like, well, we just saw Avengers. Yeah. I liked Detective Pikachu, but I'm sorry. That was a week ago. You guys should have paced this out better.
Yeah, exactly. One of those ones. Well, the Project Detective Pikachu is like, well, shit, we thought this was coming at the end of the year. Well, that's why we chose this fucking April 1st or whatever the hell it was at. But,
in all honesty, Detective Pikachu seems like just the tone and vibe of it. It seems to be more like a November movie.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, shit, November kind of needs some movies, so I guess that is the case. But, well, what do you say? Do we get started off this list? Because we always know how long this might take.
Yeah, let's first start off and say a couple movies we wanted to see, but didn't have a chance to.
The only movie I wanted to see, and it's like, it's kind of like a reason you can't really see it. I tried my darndest to see it, like, without kind of, like, venturing into, like, some pirate's house and checking it out, but it was Ip Man 4. And, I mean, granted, these are always those kind of movies that I always say, like, yeah, it comes out in China and everything, like, in fucking 2019, but by the time, really, an American can kind of see it, it's really about by the next year. So that's one of those movies that, like, whenever I watch it, I mean, I will watch it, I'm not gonna not watch it, but fucking Donnie Yen, and it's got a Bruce Lee guy in it, so come on. And it's got Scott Adkins in it, it's like fucking action movie central, but, it's one of those ones, like, sometimes when it comes to those foreign movies, I do kind of say, like, they can almost be, like, 2 years, you know what I mean? Like, it's 2019 for China, but really it's like, I mean, unless you were at, like, some special kung fu, movie theater, there's no way you're ever able to see it, because it did have a release in December somewhere in America, but yeah, that was like the only one that I tried really hard to try to track down. It was like, will it come out on digital? Will there be a way? Like, nope, that's not even coming out on DVD till like April or something like that. So
yeah,
that was about my only one though.
Oh, go ahead.
I said that was about the only one. I mean, there was other movies that, like, yeah, they'd be cool to see in like the long run, but like that was the one where it's like, I wish I would have saw that one. Because I'm pretty sure that would have affected my list, but I'm not too sure. At the same time, fuck it. If I see it 2020 and it's fucking badass, it's going on my 2020 list. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's one of those movies I definitely wanted to see it, but same reason as you. I didn't even think about that because I was like, oh yeah, it's not coming out over here, so can't even see it yet. Some movies they really just wait on. Some movies like Parasite. I wanted to see Parasite, and that's by the guy who did Snowpiercer and Oakjaw. So I like that guy's work. And Snowpiercer was one of my favorite movies from a few years back. So really wanted to see Parasite, but couldn't, unfortunately. I wanted to see Good Boys. I wanted to see Alita. And I wanted to see The Lighthouse. And then Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which was a little harder. Within like these 2 days leading up to this podcast, didn't have enough time to go get the Blu-ray or anything. So, but yeah, those are the ones I would have liked to see.
You know what? I'm gonna lay some sad truth on you. I got Jay and Silent Bob reboot yesterday because it came out, and that movie, the whole time I'm like, that movie's gonna fucking rock my list no matter what. I had no doubts in that movie. I had no I didn't even question it. Never went across my mind. I was just like, it's instantly gonna fill a spot. I mean, even if it's number 10, it's gonna fill a spot. And I watched the movie last night, and it's good, but that movie is one of those weird movies where it's just like. It's like the ultimate, like, Kevin Smith, just like, remember this joke, remember that joke movie. Like, that's the movie, if you had a friend, and you'd be like, he's like, oh, dude, I've never seen a Kevin Smith movie before. And you're like, dude, you gotta fucking see a Kevin Smith movie. Like, look, there's fucking Jay and Silent Bob playing. Come on in. Let's show you the magic. And you went and saw the Jay and Silent Bob reboot movie. That guy would be so confused the whole time he watched the movie. He would probably think it was fucking stupid and retarded. And, like, it would just be the worst experience, I feel, for somebody. They'd be so out of the loop, because that movie was, like, the most, like, in-joke film I've almost probably ever seen. Like, it only appealed to people who have seen every Kevin Smith movie.
Oh, wow, really? No, that's, well, you know, I'd still like to see it. I still intend on buying it. But at the same time...
It's still worth buying. It's still worth seeing. But I kid you, it's probably my least favorite Kevin Smith movie out of every single one he's ever created. And I don't mean it's like not saying it's not worth watching again, but it was just kind of okay.
Really? Okay. Well, that's disappointing to hear, especially for how much, you know, you hear him getting weepy talking about it. But at the same time, you know, I think that, you know... Yeah, you know, they can't all be winners, but at the same time, like, I'm still looking forward to checking it out eventually. So, but yeah, that was one that we wanted to see, but I guess
it's a weird one. It's just, I think it's just because, like, I felt like, I'm like, dude, this movie's gonna so be on my list. Then
Did
when you
feel
kind of
too
watch
panderish?
it, it's kind of like, it's super pandery. It was, because the thing is, like, it was kind of, and it just kind of rehashed, like, I mean, I know it's called reboot, but, like, it felt like, you know, you could have had the reboot thing as your story, but, like, from point A to point B, that should have been a brand new, fresh thing, and it really isn't. It's just kind of, let's go through all our old favorite jokes, you know, another time, and you're just kind of sitting there like, Yeah. I mean, I probably laughed like 10 times in the entire movie, and that's, like, kind of sad to think, but it was just like, I mean, here I'll say this, Ben Affleck has the best part of the entire movie. He fucking, like, he was given all the best writing lines and so on, and there is some moments in there, but the rest of it just feels like such like a, like almost like it feels like Kevin Smith being like, oh, let's just make a movie real quick, just get all the cameos in there real quick, everybody who's got like, you know, an hour off, and we'll just call it good. And I don't know, it's just like, it's kind of like a straight to DVD feel, like one of those like third sequels where it's just like the movie's not even like, I mean, this movie's more than 90 minutes, but like, you know, when you get to a movie, you're like, oh shit, this movie's only 75 minutes. They like were really cutting it short. It has that kind of feel to it. Like, they just kind of wanted to get one more out.
I'll be honest.
You know, and it's not that...
It's one of those... It's one of those things where it's like, I feel like Kevin Smith, like, I liked the first Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. It was funny, but at the exact same time, I mean, that was my introduction to Kevin Smith, technically. But at the same time, I kind of like Clerks and Chasing Amy and Mallrats. I like those. I think Jay and Silent Bob are better off as background characters. I love them, but I think they're better off as background characters. So I think that when you make a second Jay and Silent Bob movie, the only thing to do is to rehash everything. And by this point, you know, we both saw Jay and Silent Bob when we were like in middle school. So it's kind of like, it was way more like raunchier and way more fucked up, and that kind of stuff stood out to us more. But now we're at not want to sound like we're above that, but now we're both at the age where it's kind of like, all right, well, we still like these characters and we grew up with that movie, so we like it. But if now you just kind of throw that comedy on you now, it doesn't really hit the same way as it did when you were younger, I think, you know?
Yeah, well, it's like, well, it's like, I actually, as the older I get, I almost have like a weird, like, more of appreciation for Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. It's kind of like that movie where it's like, as a kid, yeah, you think that movie's fucking amazing when it first comes out. And then it kind of becomes a little bit on the lower end for you. It's not like you like, you know, you discover Mallrats and Clerks and all the other ones and so on. But then it's like kind of coming back. I actually like that one quite a bit. And it's not the Jay and Silent Bob characters that necessarily, I think, that's not really the problem. Like, I think that's still always good. It's just it just has some weird stuff in it and just weird choices. And I don't know. I feel bad like talking about the movie, kind of going like, man. But it was one of those ones where it's just kind of like, I guess it was like almost one of the movies I was looking more forward to than almost anything else all year round. Then you kind of finally see it, and it's just like, huh? Oh, that's kind of all it was. I mean, I don't know. We definitely check it out. Buy it. I would say buy it, because. Not saying you wouldn't watch it multiple times as, you know, as life goes on, and it's worth having for the collection and everything like that. But yeah, it was just, I don't know, it just wasn't what I was expecting. And then also, yeah, it has that kind of made the, like, straight to DVD, you know, B movie kind of feel to it.
Yeah. I like Kevin Smith to go, I mean, you know, he's not a dispensary. He's not going to like, Kevin, go make this for me. But I liked it when he's getting like kind of experimental with things like Red State and Tusk. I didn't like Yoga Hosers, but I really liked Red State and Tusk. I was like, oh, I hope he does more weird shit like this, because Yoga Hosers had a very straight to DVD feel to me. But without going too much into that.
Yeah, that one did too. But I'll say this: I like Yoga Hosers more than Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
Man, That's saying something. But yeah. Anyway,
I know.
I guess moving.
Well,
forward,
and I'm one of those people who likes yoga hosers, but yeah, let's go
You're one
forward.
of-
We've talked enough about one movie that's not even on our list.
Could have been. So, do you want to start or you want me to start?
I don't care. You could start.
Okay. My number 10 is a horror movie called Ready or Not.
You know, this is one of those ones that I heard about like kind of like just about a week ago, and I was like, I should check this one out. I never got around to seeing it.
Okay, so here's the concept. It's kind of one of those. It is a. I think you can call it a horror film. It is a partially a comedy, but it's one of those. It's kind of like one of those more satirical, quasi Cabin in the Woods style horror movies. It's not like so meta to the degree of like Cabin in the Woods tries to come up with an explanation as of why slasher films happen. But this is one of those ones where it's kind of critiquing the genre and at the same time has fun, and it's still gory. And the scares aren't that big, but it's more of like kind of more of a thriller. So basically, this really, I thought it was Margot Robbie. She looks a lot like Margot Robbie, but it's not. I forget her name, but she's in the movie The Babysitter, that slasher comedy movie that came out like 2 years ago, I think, on Netflix. Anyway, she is marrying into this ridiculously wealthy family that made all their money off old board games. And the board games have like this, you see all the board games earlier on. It's painting down this hall in this creepy looking mansion. And the board games all look like, they have like this creepy look to them. Like this creepy, innocent, like kind of like trying to be innocent, kind of like a Norman Rockwell thing, but at the same time, kind of like there's something creepy or sinister about that. It's like The Ritual, like Only at Midnight, like these kind of like weird names. Like that's a weird name for a fucking board game. But anyway, so she's marrying into this rich eccentric family, and shit's kind of bad because they show shit's gonna lead somewhere bad because they kind of already implied something earlier in the beginning of the movie. But essentially, whenever somebody comes into the family, there's this ritual they have to perform, and they have to play a game. They made like a deal, like their great-great-great-grandfather or whatever made a deal with somebody where, okay, well, all you gotta do is whenever someone marries into your family, you gotta play a game, you gotta make a bet, and you have to... And generally what happens is you all play the game. At the end of the game, you're supposed to sacrifice a goat. But if the game you land on is hide and seek, that's the only game where the person in the game that's playing has to be killed. The person entering the family. Oh, sorry, try again next time. You gotta kill them, otherwise shit's gonna go bad for you, so they say. So, it starts off kind of like, everyone's kind of like an eccentric character. You got... Once that happens, it's only happened a few times. They've actually had to play hide and seek, but you see, they're a bunch of super well-off people, so they're kind of like, oh fuck, how does this work? They got a crossbow, they're not exactly sure how it works. You get the like younger daughter of the family who's like, Mom, I suck at this. I'm sorry, I'm trying my best. Then you get like her husband, just like, Jesus Christ. He's like, I'll be right back. He's like in the bathroom, looking at a YouTube video of how to use a crossbow, as they're trying to hunt this girl down. And then you get, like, the alcoholic brother who is... You think he's an asshole at first, then you realize, oh, he's, like, one of the only good people here. The reason he was being kind of creepy and an asshole to her is he was trying to scare her off so she wouldn't get dragged into this fucked up family. And then you got the crazy old aunt who just actually looks forward to murdering people, They get the people who are a little bit more like, I don't know about this. So each person in the family stands out in some way, and that itself is pretty interesting. And the kills are pretty good, and they have like a lot of moments where someone walks in like they're trying to come around a corner, and then like they shoot someone. They shoot like a servant through the neck with the crossbow again or a gun. Like, oh fuck, oh man, she was my favorite. So we still got two more, right? We'll have one of them come clean this shit up, okay? So it's a lot of that. It's kind of dark comedy, and the kills are actually pretty good. And this ending is one of those movies where I'm going to say the ending is probably one of the best parts of it.
Like a real strong ending?
Really strong ending, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that was one of those ones that, like RJ brought that up. I know I'm just name-dropping random-ass people now, but Pizza Boy's character.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like he's a fucking celebrity now, but Yeah, he mentioned to me like a week ago. He's like, dude, here's a movie you really gotta fucking check out. And I was like, huh, I didn't see anything up on this movie. I never saw a trailer for it or anything. I don't even know where it came on. Because it didn't come to like major theaters, did it?
No, it did. I think it did. It didn't. I don't know if it was in theaters that long.
Like one of those like
a lot of money
movies that's only in there for like a week or something, maybe.
It was on bus stops. So.
Oh well, yeah. Somebody put some advertising into it, but yeah, no, that sounded very interesting, and I really did want to check that one out. But yeah,
and like once again, it's not that scary. The violence is pretty cool in it. It's not like the most over the top violence, but there are some pretty violent parts. There's a handful of violent parts. Like, oh, that was pretty fucked up. That was cool.
Well, it just sounds more like a fun movie. Like, I guess movie has horror elements, but it's more like a fun, kind of like a Tucker and Dale.
It's like a fun thriller kind of movie. Yeah, I mean, by the end of it, I guess you could. You're not lying to yourself. If you put in a horror section, but at the same time, I'm just saying it's not that scary.
Yeah, that's I mean. It's more like a fun movie. Because there's those type of horrors out there. But cool. Well, I guess going on to my list, my number 10 is Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Super, I guess. Fuck it. Dragon Ball, let me get like the new kids now, Dragon Ball Super Broly. Which was like the movie that started the fucking year off, because that came out like in January. And that was like one of those weird ones too, where they're like, you know what, let's try 2 days in major motion picture. I mean, like, I don't know, like my kid's into fucking Dragon Ball. We'll see what happens. And that movie was so fucking popular, they're like, shit, throw it in there for like another week. His parents like, well, what's like Dragon Ball Z Broly's still there? But dude, this movie was like fucking so sick. And like to top it off, it has some of the best animation I've really seen. And then plus, I guess also like you don't really get to see a 2D animation movie. I mean, it's still got CG stuff in it, for like flying ships and stuff like that. But like still like that 2D animation is just so rare anymore. So I guess almost just seeing that's almost just like a magical moment. And boy, it's just like has like a great story. You get the Brawly story that's just totally badass, and you feel for him, and you get the sand thing, kind of almost like the Bardock story, but from like a kind of a different perspective. And then of course, like the second half of the movie is just pure fighting, but like the whole point during the movie is just like there's colors and the animation and the flow of it and the blast and everything about it. You're just like, you feel like you're watching an art house picture Dragon Ball Z movie, if that makes sense. Like, you just should be sitting back like that ending scene in 2001, The Space Odyssey, of all the colors flashing at you and everything. Dude, this movie was so cool.
Yeah, I actually went and watched this movie on Hulu, and I was bouncing back and forth between this movie and Ready or Not for my number 10. And I'm like, you know what? Well, just to vary it up, and I'm like, I know Spencer's going to have Dragon Ball Z on there, so I'll leave that for him. But this movie could have been easily my number. It's just a matter of like how many things. I don't want to do the honorable mention thing, but how many of these movies can I really fit on here? I'm like, all right, well, X-nay this one, because I know Spencer probably didn't see this one, but I know he saw Dragon Ball, and that one was really awesome. Especially, it kind of elaborates and retroactively adds to the whole thing with Bardock. They suddenly, because for a while it's just like, was Bardock a single dad? Where's the mom? Like, she's in the birthing chamber. We don't see the women. But this one actually does a little more of the Superman thing, where you actually, okay, you kind of feel for her. You see he's kind of a little different than the rest. They're like, what about Raditz? Oh, fuck him. You think it's gonna
fuck Raditz.
Our son, I think they're probably already kind of like, you know what? He's off the planet. He's safe. Maybe that was their mindset. But that whole...
He's already got a job. He's working with the prince.
He's got that internship's really paying off. So,
he
but it's one of
back
those
a
things.
Check every week. You know what I mean? He's the golden boy. We can count on him. I don't fucking like him. He's got bad table manners, but still.
Doesn't cut his fucking hair. I mean, I know we're saying long hair is our thing, unless you're Nappa, but still, god damn it, that fucking hair. Reeks after a while. You don't realize how much he uses shampoo when he actually does wash his fucking hair.
Yeah.
No. Dragon Ball Super though, because the first, almost half of it, like maybe first like 20 or 30 minutes of it, is the all the Saiyan stuff and elaborating on that, and you really feel for Broly, and Broly's not a bad guy. And I also like what they do is there's those two new characters who are in Frieza's force. And when I first see him, I'm like, who are these fucks? They don't look like they know how to throw a punch or anything. But then I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting because it builds more on Frieza's army, because you always just see, the Ginyu Force, you see Zarbon, all those guys. And then this one, they're just kind of like, you know what? We are like the bottom of the bottom of the bottom totem pole. So even though we don't really like what Frieza does, we are so low, it doesn't fucking matter if we work for him. Because it's not like we really have any effect on this world. And if he isn't killing us, someone else will be. And then those are the people that kind of go out of their way and kind of form a relationship with Broly. And those characters kind of came out and stood out to me.
Yeah, no, I like those characters a lot too, and it's just like I said, like they don't fucking throw a punch. Like it's like Dragon Ball Z logic. I don't like you if you don't throw a punch.
Well, generally, yeah. I mean, because if you don't throw a punch, then what are you in Dragon Ball Z? You're one of the characters hovering around the TV, like, oh, gee, I hope they beat Cell. I mean, what the fuck are you if you can't throw a punch at the end of the day in Dragon Ball? Dragon Ball Z, at least. After a while, Oolong and Blur are just like, oh, I don't know about this, Master Roshi, you know?
Yeah, that's all they are doing, is hovering around that fucking TV set, on the fucking island. But,
hope everything pans out. Yep, you're not doing nothing about it, so.
Yeah. But no,
Yabaroshi had a sword for a minute.
Yeah, he did. He used it
for
once to slice off Vegeta's tail or what have you. But yeah, exactly, those kind of things. But no, that Broly movie, it's almost one of those movies. Like I rewatched it again, not that long ago, and I was like, I almost was gonna move it farther up, but I thought it was also such a good starting movie for a list too that I sort of kind of kept it there. But it's like, I almost like it more than a lot of the other movies that are on my list. Because I was like, God, that movie's so good. That's like one of the best Dragon Ball Z movies they've ever made.
I think that probably is the best Dragon Ball Z movie they ever made, just because, and I'm not bringing this down, because I like a lot of most Dragon Ball Z movies. But the thing about them is they always take place in like some one little area, and they don't really go anywhere else. It's this one little area, and they just fight this new bad guy. And I think the first couple earlier ones, like Tree of Might and World's Strongest and Dead Zone, I mean, World's Strongest had to be easy. They're just like in a black room fighting a robot most of that movie, But at the same time, I think this one, it felt like it went more at a... They had like that, hour and kind of change kind of feel to it, the other ones. This one actually felt like, oh, I see a little bit more of like... It actually felt like more like a theatrical film. Like this movie's going to theaters. And the beginning, I think, really helped with that too. Now, after a while, once they get to Broly, they do the Dragon Ball Z thing where they just stay in the one spot for a while, but at least the area itself changes. The battle is so crazy, it's literally changing everything around them.
Well, it's that, and then it's just the animation. The animation is so fucking ridiculous in the movie that, it almost, you don't care that they're in the same area because you just getting these angles and these just whips, and you're getting these colors. Everybody's going in the, Broly's got this kind of green hue to his Super Saiyan. Of course, you got, the different, the yellow Super Saiyan of Goku and Vegeta, and then you got the Super Saiyan, whatever the heck the new one's called, and, nobody goes Super Saiyan 3. I guess that one's just like, we just fucking bypass that now.
Well, it's Raditz. We don't want
that. Yeah, we don't want fucking Raditz. You know how hard that is to clean. But then it's even, they got the fusion technique going on with Piccolo, Piccolo's pretty much standing out there watching, telekinesis, or not telekinesis, but telepathic fucking TV, just on his, rock, be like, yeah, let's see him climb up here.
Well, then that was actually... I thought that whole part was actually kind of funny when they're going... Piccolo is actually having them do it again, because you're used to seeing him get frustrated with, Trunks and Goten, but see him getting frustrated with Goku and Vegeta, another 30 minutes! You guys keep fucking this up.
That's okay, Frieza's a punching bag, you can take it.
Well, even that was that was a very quick line, but because Goku never really has clever lines, but every once in a while there's just, maybe if it's an accidentally clever, but when they're trying to get away from Broly for a minute, they zoom past Frieza, have fun, Frieza! What? Just get how quick that was. I could almost see that being improvised by the voice actors.
Well, it's almost it's kind of there's a car behind him, and then they sort of jump out of the way, and he just gets kind of ran over by it, which is Broly being that vehicle.
Well, just that Goku's have fun! Just goes by, fuck you, we're gone.
But no, yeah, the Broly movie, so fucking good. Probably one of the best like animated movies I've seen in a long time. You know, and
Yeah,
I feel
I really like that.
for the most part, I think almost anybody could kind of jump into it. There is that part that you brought up where it's like after the kind of like the, you know, Planet Vegeta part and all that stuff. When they jump back in, when they jump back into like the modern days, the only thing though is that's like it almost goes fucking Digimon for like a second, where it's just like, "Hi, this is me, Goku, and here's Bulma. You know, we've been traveling together forever, and here's Vegeta, and here's two other people we just fought recently. You probably don't know who they are, but who the fuck cares? We're all out here sunbathing right now."
And fighting, yeah. Now, that was one of those things where, I mean, this is not going to, if you never liked Dragon Ball, this is not going to change your mind. I know people who really know bare minimum about Dragon Ball Z and they watch this movie. I'm like, you know what? This doesn't make me want to watch Dragon Ball, but I enjoyed the movie. I liked the first 30 or 40 minutes when they were on Planet Vegeta. And even though I thought the battle went on a little long, it was very well animated. It was really pretty. Like, I heard people who weren't into anime say that, so that's something.
Yeah, so it is something there, but yeah, we talked extensively about Dragon Ball Z Broly, or Dragon Ball Super Broly. I guess I gotta get used to saying it that way. But what's your number 9?
My number 9 is Knives Out.
Oh, you put Knives Out on there. That was a movie that, like, I thought about it because it was like, I'm like, that's a really good film, but I was like, it's like a number 11. I knew it was just gonna be just shy of making the list, but I did really, really like it a lot.
I liked it a lot just because the whodunit, it's been done so many times, and it's kind of hard to be original with it. And on top of that, I mean, I just kind of like, I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of things I love are getting like their 10th movie or their 5th reboot or whatever. But at the same time, and even though I look forward to those things, I'm glad when I could see just like somebody like Rian Johnson, someone who kind of has his own signature and his own tech and his own like style, come in and just tell an original story, you know? And I think this is kind of what he does. Well, best. I mean, you're wrong. Well, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, is this movie feels like it goes along with his first movie, Brick, like really solid.
Brick, kind of. I mean, it feels different than Looper, but at the same time, if you said this by the same guy, I could probably see some similarities, you know? It's one of those things where, because it's a whodunit, and it has this big ensemble cast, and I think it intentionally misleads you by what you perceive or what you think you know about whodunit movies, like Clue or Murder on the Orient Express. Something about that is like, okay, here's this big cast, this big ensemble cast with all these A-list actors, and like, okay, I can see it being this guy, I can see it being that guy, but the thing is, the murder is revealed and solved within the first 30 or 40 minutes of this movie. So from there, you're like, okay, well, where's the big twist then? And from there, it's not really how did this guy how this guy get killed. It's more of, oh, how do we stay how knowing what we know, how do we stay one step ahead of this person or stay one step ahead of that person? And then there's ways they bring twist in there that you don't expect. Like at some point somebody flips, like turns the script and turns out being, oh, this person's a bad guy. I'm like, that's not that surprising, but it makes sense the way he got there, and at the same time I didn't see that's how he got to this point, you know?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Like a lot of twists and turns. I mean, there's a couple of them you see, but for the most part, it's still kind of like, wait a second, where are we going? And I will say though, it has like one of the strongest endings I think I've seen in almost any movie of all time. Like the ending is so powerful and so perfect that like it's one of those moments where like you have an ending like that, you don't need anything whatsoever past the credits. You know what I mean? Like you are so solidified with that, and I thought that was one of the best parts too in it. Plus, you just gotta love Daniel Craig.
Yeah, well, yeah, that too. I like to see a series of this movie with Daniel Craig. Just like, what's Daniel Craig do? What's his next case? You know. Mm-hmm. And this ending in the movie, I won't spoil it, but at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, it's such a. First off, it takes one of my favorite songs from my favorite album, which is by my favorite band, the Rolling Stones. It takes Sweet Virginia from Exile on Main Street by the Rolling Stones. And it uses the song in such a way, and then there's this small little thing they throw at the beginning of the movie. You don't think much of it, and then it comes back at the very end, and they do that a lot, but it's presented in a way of like, oh fuck yeah, that's a clever way of getting that across.
Yeah, no, totally. I definitely agree there. Like, no, this movie's like nonstop fun from beginning to end, and you just want to kind of see what happens next, and just like how some of these characters. It's like, and it's a lot of the twist. It's like, yeah, it's like instead, it's like of doing the big stuff. It's all like the little things in the movie, all the little nuisances, and also like the things too where like you realize this family is just a real shitty family. Like, not like terribly shitty, like they're evil and they're gonna go hunt and kill people, I guess, like that Ready or Not movie. But just like that thing where it's like, they're not the worst people in the world, but they're the kind of people where like, once you start to get to kind of know them, you're like, I fucking hate those people. You know what I mean? Like, they're really not good people at all. I mean, they're not, killing people or, or polluting the ocean, but they're still just like a bunch of selfish, like no good, like rich kids at the end of the day.
It's also one of those things, like, the characters in this movie, I feel like they all, like, there's not a line of dialogue, and I've only seen the movie once, but thinking back on just certain passing things, there's not a line of dialogue in that movie, as far as I can tell, that doesn't seem like it's not useful or doesn't come back in some way. Like, just a very small passing conversation about immigration. It happens at one point in the movie. And then later it comes back. Like, oh, isn't your family immigrated? So then you see, because you know how they stand, where these people particularly stand on immigration. And then they come to this character over here who is an immigrant. So kind of, and that actually, without going into too much detail, that plays an effect later on in the movie. So it's just a lot of things like that. Or it's like, they even kind of like, without trying to force it down your throat. It makes sense this movie came out around Thanksgiving because it's, this family all like in this very kind of like, fall type environment in this house. And it's just like, they play off on like, a lot of like modern politics. There's the trolly little like douchey little like alt-right kid who's kind of creepy. And then there's like the little like social justice warrior like college girl type of they
who plays as your best friend, but she's really just like your enemy.
The thing is, she's not even, they don't even play her off like she's that bad, but they show when push comes to shove, she's more selfish than what she lets on. 'Cause for a while she seems like she's the only likable one there, but then when push comes to shove, she feels a little bad about it, but at the same time you see she's not that different from everyone else there. She's just self-motivated, and no matter what she preaches, And I thought that part was funny, though. Just a small passing line where they're just like, meanwhile, the fucking alt-right kid is probably in the bathroom jerking off to like dead pictures of deer, just something like that. Just like small passing lines like that.
Yeah, or I think that's what I thought. I called him not the Nazi boy. I thought because Daniel Craig said
Daniel Craig.
He says it with his accent.
Up two different lines. I'm mixing up two different lines. That's right. No, he says something like, meanwhile, that's while the masturbating Nazi boy heard the commotion.
But yeah, no, I kid you not, though. Like, really, a series of movies with just the Daniel Craig character continuing on, sold. I love that character. Well, it's like, something about Daniel Craig. It's like it's a 007 thing. I don't know what it is. Like, you put any like Bond in anything, and I'm like, I'm there. I don't care what it is. And if you put an accent on him, you put an accent on Daniel Craig, I don't know what it is. Like, that sells me even more. Just like the Logan Lucky one or something, but
he really likes doing southern redneck foghorn leghorn type characters.
But no, that is a good movie. Like I said, that was like one of those ones that was like close. It's like such a close to my top 10, but it's just like, if we had a top 15, it would have totally been in there, but it was just shy enough.
All right, well, what's your number 9?
Well, my number 9, I'm gonna go with Motley Crue's The Dirt biopic. I know that came out on Netflix, which always makes me kind of go, Netflix ones, they always feel, I don't know what it is. Whenever you watch a movie off Netflix, it literally comes across like a straight to DVD, like not nearly the same. And I mean, like, granted, I guess the Motley Crue one probably would fall into that. It's kind of like, you know how in the olden days it seems like very few like music movies can ever be like in theaters. I mean, I know we got there's a handful of big ones. Like, I mean, I guess right now you got the Queen and the Rocket Man one, but in the olden days you had the Doors and you had like Great Balls of Fire and Walk the Line. I almost said Walk Hard. You have that one too, but Walk the Line. There's certain ones that kind of somehow, some way make it, But then there's all the other ones that, like, what most of them are, I was thinking, like, there's, like, the Def Leppard one, all the Beatles ones for some reasons can't seem to make it, which is so weird. It's like, the Beatles can't make it. Then you got those weird spin-offs, like the Stoned one of the Rolling Stones, like that one night where he fucking died. So I guess...
He's probably murdered, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Well, here's the Keith Richards cock to keep you busy, but, what?
Yeah, we'll show it again, don't worry.
Don't worry, if you missed it once, you'll see it again. But, it's one of those ones, so I guess
it... just kind of go like a... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it's just like the Motley Crue one. I know that, like, they tried to make it, like, to a theater movie for, like, ever. And it's probably one of those ones they're like, fuck it, I guess we'll just never get the theater thing. Shit, I guess we'll do the Netflix thing instead, because they could never probably be a VH1 movie. It'd be like the Motley Crue PG-13 movie. But
yeah.
So it's like the Netflix one's kind of like a happy medium. But that was one of those biopics where I was like, the whole way through, just because I've read that book many a times, I'm like, it is pretty Johnny on the spot accurate. And whenever the movie, there's a couple times where like it did something like, well, that's not how it happened in the book. And it literally would like retro correct itself, being like, Mick Mars would like show up and be like, oh yeah, that's not the way it went. Let me, tilt this around or whatever. Like, oh, okay. So it is fixing itself as it kind of goes along to be kind of funny. But I thought that one was just dialed in. It had all the main events, but still kind of kept other stuff in there. Like, it had, like, Ozzy Osbourne in there and so on. Because that's something that's always kind of bothered me sometimes. You have some biopics, it almost feels like that band never played it with any other bands. Like, they're just by themselves. Like, I'm going to say this, the Queen movie's like that. The Queen movie feels like there was no other music but Queen in the 70s. You know what I mean? Like, you never see a single other fucking musician in that entire movie. It's like, where's David Bowie? I don't know, his song's playing, but he's not allowed to be on here. You know what I mean? It's like, there's nobody else in there. It just feels like Queen is the only one. I mean, at least Rocket Man had some other people in it and so on, too. It just had to have those weird fucking goofy musical scenes that, like, kind of threw me off, but no, yeah, the Motley Crue one, it's straight... No, and the trailer, because it has those kind of moments where it's like, how they describe it. It's not like a...
It's a rock and roll fantasy.
It's like not like a storyline. Yeah, it's a fantasy. And the weirdest thing, too, in that movie is it has, like, we're getting all kind of off topic here, but it's like, it has those musical numbers, and then all of a sudden, they're not there for, like, an entire hour. And you almost kind of forget about them. You're like, oh, shit, it's a regular movie again. And then all of a sudden, they pull them back in there towards the end, and you're like, oh, okay, I guess. I don't know. That's the other thing about that one. It's like, I feel if it would have just been straight like the Queen movie, sounds weird to say, if it would have been straight like that Queen movie, but like, no fucking musical numbers, just straight up music and so on like that, I think I would have liked the Rocket Man one just as much. But, granted, I guess this is the thing. This is what we learned about Motley Crue. And maybe if like Nikki Sixx was butt fucking Tommy Lee, it could have gone to theaters. That's what I learned, but.
Well, it's also one of those things. I'll say this: watching that movie, the Mick Mars character, he was probably my favorite part of the movie, just because he's just so jaded. He's just so like he doesn't want to be there, and he's pretty sure this band's gonna go to shit within like 2 weeks, and then he's like, "All right, we'll see where this goes." And even when the band's going along and doing good, he's still like, "Whatever, it's gonna fucking fall apart. I know it." These fucking kids.
That's what always makes Mick Mars kind of funny, is that like he just is like the old man guy. Even though the funny thing, he's only like 2 years older than them. He's not like that much older, but like just old enough older. He's like, here we go. I'll put the fucking makeup on, and it's just like he's just like putting on like almost like an act. It's like, I just want to play blues guitar, like Stevie Ray Vaughan or Jimi Hendrix, but I guess that dream's fucking dead.
Well, it's like I remember they were talking like, you're in that band? Like, yeah, I was in that band. Like, the band fucking sucked. Like, well, why? It was like, it was a shitty name, so it means it's gonna be a shitty fucking band. And Ozzy Osbourne just walking around, licking his piss off the ground, snorting ants, all that.
Yeah, it's just like, they captured, I felt like they did a really good job of like, because, we only got like, maybe, it's not even probably a 2-hour movie, it's probably like an hour and 45 minutes or something like that, but like, it captured a lot of the big moments in there and stuff. Like, yeah, you could have kept going on. I mean, it does sort of, it ends in like 1996 instead of like 2001 or whatever the book ends at. It's like they do the thing where it's like, get that John Corabi guy out of there. Get that fucking Soundgarden wannabe motherfucker. Oh, we got Vince Neil back. Fuck it. Movie's over. It's all good. What about that time that Tommy Lee leaves? We won't get to that then.
Everything worked out perfectly fine.
We've never had a problem since.
Tommy Lee never got stuck in that little roller coaster thing on his drum set. That never happened.
But no, as far as like rock and roll biopics go, I think that movie was like super solid. Like it easily, like I would say top 5 of all the ones I've ever seen, but maybe even higher for me, probably. Too bad. I just said too bad it can't go to theaters, but I feel like you almost have to have like there's got to be something else. You can't just be a rock movie or something like that to go to the cinema. You got to have like some other kind of catch, and I don't know why that is, because I feel like here's the thing. You can almost sell any band as long as you just have a movie and you just make that trailer look interesting and you have like a couple songs people know, they'll show up. You know what I mean? Like, I think they get this idea in their head, be like, well, there's only this many Motley Crue fans out there, so that's all the people that are going to go to the theater. It's like, that's not the case. Perfect example is look at the Walk the Line movie. Johnny Cash had like a resurgence because of that fucking movie. You know what I mean? There was about like half the people that probably showed up to it didn't know who Johnny Cash was.
Want to know one of the reasons I think some of those other movies did really good, went to theaters recently, and don't get me wrong, this is not me attacking those movies or attacking the bands or groups these movies are based on. But the reason I think Queen, Straight Outta Compton, and Rocket Man, I don't know, did Rocket Man do good? Did Rocket Man do pretty good box office wise?
I think it did. I think it didn't do like the Queen good, which is what they probably were looking for. Because Queen was like that one where it's just like massively like, you know, they're still talking about it to this day.
Well, I think the reason why those movies probably got greenlit in the first place is, aside from being a rock and roll rise to fame story, those are all people that had to deal with hardships. So NWA got a bunch of black kids growing up having to deal with fucking police and their surroundings and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man, you know, having to deal with being rock star fame, and then also at the same time, at a time when, you know, people were a lot more prejudiced against, you know, gay people. So I think that's probably their mindset. I don't know if that is the case, though. That's just me guessing, and that's not me attacking Queen, Elton John, or NWA, which is such a weird combination right there. But I think it's more than anything just like, it's just like that's what record producers see. Like, this is what the media wants. Or movie producers.
Yeah, it felt like they needed somebody. They didn't just need, like, you know, Motley Crue, I guess, is like, well, there's 4 guys in L.A. who are a bunch of ruffians and a bunch of derelicts, and they're, you know, I guess they're probably afraid to kind of sell like the Motley Crue one as big as, you know what I mean? Like, I think that probably scares them a little bit, because really, like, metal still kind of hasn't really had like a movie, you know what I mean? I'm trying to think of something that really went to theaters that was like,
I feel like
shit.
80s hair metal is one of those things that I think it's come back, was kind of when we were in high school, and right now it's kind of like, oh, that's fucking, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, I mean, I know kids like 80s stuff right now, but they seem to be liking 80s pop and 80s new wave stuff, not so much hair metal, I noticed.
Well, and then there's also, because remember when Rockstar came out with Mark Wahlberg, which is a fucking amazing movie, which is pretty much like doing a rock biopic, but instead you have an original story where you just kind of pull from other bands and kind of piecemeal a story together. Well, that one's like one of those ones like that came out the theaters, but I think that one came out too early, because that came out like in 2001, where people would have been like very like, oh, no way, fucking hair metal, because that movie, I remember, like, it didn't do good at all. And I'm like, dude, that movie's so good. Dude, Mark Wahlberg fucking kills it in it. Plus, you get Zach Wilde in there fucking shooting guns off, like, driving down the road. And it's even got, like, a Steel Panther, you know, what's his name? God, I'm blank right now. But he's in it for, like, a split second and so on. Like, it's a really good movie with, you know, fantastic original songs and so on. But I think that was a perfect example. Like, it was a little too early for, like, that time. Because if you think about, like, you're doing a movie based on hair metal that's only a tad bit over 10 years old at that point.
Yeah. So people are just starting to get over grunge rock. So
yeah, because that's still like, oh, well, maybe it was a fucking Nickelback movie I would have went and saw, or if it had Limp Bizkit in
it. That post grunge era. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of era. But yeah, that's my number 9, The Dirt. I felt like that went onto a tangent of all music tangents.
Well, I can expect we're probably gonna lead to a tangent no matter what we talk about. So I guess that leads to my number 8, which is Booksmart.
Oh, Booksmart. I actually did go and see this movie, which it was kind of funny because I used to laugh because at Regal, it still has this advertisement at the very end.
Fuck that advertisement.
They have the stupid thing where it's like, Coca-Cola and Regal like are getting together to show young filmmakers who have tons of money in their pocket from their parents, like, to make a Coke ad or whatever. And it always has Olivia Wilde. She's like, "Hi, I'm Olivia Wilde, a book smart." And I just think it's funny. It's like, Regal didn't even fucking play your movie in theaters, so I don't know why you're teamed up with them. They just let your movie go soaring straight to DVD. And this was movies where it's just like, I remember I was literally sitting in the hospital and I was like, "Oh, it's on Hulu? Okay, whatever. I'm good." Like, this sounds weird, but this almost sounds like if you shove an ad down someone's throat like enough times, it might work kind of thing. Because I've only seen that Olivia Wilde ad like fucking like probably like 100 times in the last year. So it's kind of like, okay, I'll see what this book smart's about. Like, prove to me, ladies. Like, let me know what's up.
Like, if you played enough, you just might get Manchurian candidated enough to watch it.
Exactly.
Like, I suddenly crave Coca-Cola too.
And popcorn, But yeah, it's like one of those ones where I remember watching it, it's like, oh, it's like a female Superbad. That's pretty much at the end of the day what it is. And I actually did kind of enjoy it. I didn't think it was like, anywhere close to a top 10 movie, but I was like, oh, I was actually kind of impressed. It was kind of a fun, like, yeah, just a female Superbad, and it had even like those weird raunchy jokes, but it didn't feel like they worked. It was like those ones that like some movies that would have felt like shoehorned. This one, it didn't feel so bad.
Well, I thought first off the writing in it was pretty funny, and yeah, going into it, it feels like a female Superbad, but then you go into there's more to it than that, because I think this movie does a good job of flipping a lot of high school movie. It starts off like kind of cliche high school movie, Superbad, but then it kind of flips the script on you in some way, because you realize these two girls, one of them's like, they're both like, one of them's like this, she's like super into school, student government, all this shit. The other one is a little bit more of kind of like into politics and into like gender studies and all that kind of stuff. And they're super like just very bookish and they never really go out and do any partying because they focus so hard. And then, one of them, somebody's talking shit about one of them while the other's in the bathroom. Not the girl. Like, one of the girl, like, some group of kids is talking shit on one of the girls while she's in the bathroom. Then she walks out, and then she has one of those moments like, "Oh, by the way, here's what I'm doing. I'm going to Yale. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Fuck you. Go enjoy it because you're at the best point of your life right now. Fuck off." And like, actually, no, I'm going to Stanford. What? Yeah, and I'm going to Google. I'm not even going to college. So Google wants to hire me right off the bat, So it's like all like these fucking derpy, dopey ass like party kids have been living this full life. Why they've did just as good at like school, but they've actually had time to make friends and go out and party and all that. So they're like, well, we got to actually go out and have some fun. We actually got to try this out. And you kind of, as the movie goes on, it has a lot of those raunchy jokes and a lot of those more like social interaction, kind of like cringe-worthy moments. Like, not that it's so bad, it's cringe-worthy, but just like you cringe watch, like, oh, don't do that. But as it goes on, like a lot of the characters are all a little deeper and they let on. It doesn't feel too cliche or too cheesy about it either. Like when it gets to the end, when it gets closer to the end, and that there's like that inevitable like third act moment when everything just kind of goes to shit for everybody, it actually feels pretty genuine. It doesn't feel like, oh, we put this here because it has to be here. It's like, oh no, that actually feels very real. And at the same time, all these characters who seem throwaway archetypes are actually have more going on to them.
Yeah, no, I was pretty impressed by it. It was one of those ones where it's like, oh, this is actually like a pretty solid movie. And yeah, it has kind of like almost like a message in it too. It's not just jokes and, fart and boob jokes and what have you and so on. Like, there actually is something kind of going on in it, and the characters are likable, and characters are kind of relatable, and it is that interesting thing too, where you just see these people that go, oh shit, because they're really like the two girls in it are like almost like the ultimate definition of like preppy. I know preppy's kind of has like a more of a broader term nowadays, it seems like, but like when you think of like classic old-fashioned preppy, that's what these girls are. That's like all they're doing is preparing for like college. That's it. They realize that they gotta do more, and And then also as they kind of go out too, you feel like they go out and it's almost like they have those moments in the parties where like, oh shit, people like us, we're having a good time and so on like that. And then you kind of realize like, oh no, they don't fucking like you still. They still kind of hate you and they almost have those kind of like hard turn moments, but they're kind of interesting in it too.
Yeah, and I think that movie was one of those movies I went in, everyone was telling, not everyone, but a lot of people who saw it, like, it was one of those movies that just kind of popped up on me last minute, because I didn't see a wide release for this thing, but I heard a few shows I watched, say, you know what, I watched this Booksmart movie, it was pretty good, and Marley suggested it to me, and a few other people, like, alright, it's on Hulu, let me check it out, came out in 2019, so who knows, might make the list. Oh, it did, that's cool.
It's funny, that movie has some fucking negative reviews, too. Like, I just remember, like, I can't remember, I think it was on, like, Netflix or something like that. And it's like, that's the fucking stupidest movie I've ever seen.
You can actually
like,
read comments on Netflix? Really?
Yeah, they had, like...
Or you can't
it,
like, go online or whatever.
Yeah, well, I guess you got to go on the desktop or the app or whatever, but...
oh, okay.
Yeah, it literally had, like, 1 out of 5 stars, and it was like, holy crap. I mean, there's people that liked it, too, but it was either, like, you like this movie, or you fucking hated it. And it's like, I remember kind of going, like, watching, like, I don't really know how someone could, like, hate it, but they thought, like, the writing was off, the acting was off, like, it was, like... And there was, like, multiple, comments like that, too, and I was kind of like, huh, it's funny how this movie has really offended a lot of people somehow, some way.
It's probably because, if I had to guess, both the main characters, and this isn't me trying to get political, but both the main characters are that very new, I guess, that new left-leaning, maybe not to the level of being the stereotypical SJW type, but they have tendencies of that, but I also think it's meant to be somewhat satirical in that, and kind of poke fun at that. And some people have no concept of irony or whatever, you know? Because sometimes when you start throwing around like political views in a movie, start throwing around political views in a movie and all that, people sometimes get really bent out of shape really quickly, even if it is meant to be satire.
Yeah, because I would even say those characters are even that. Those characters just to me just come across as like, hey, it's your standard kind of, preppy, book smart girls. I get that's what it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like they don't feel because the kind of the sort of the fatter one in that movie, she kind of has like I don't give a fuck, like I'll do whatever. Is it really? No wonder she's like totally the Jonah Hill character.
Yeah, that makes sense. They're like, we're doing a super bad, like we're doing more or less like a girl version of super bad. Let's bring in the sister.
Yeah, so as I said, yeah. But no, that still was a fun movie, and it was one of the movies where I was more surprised. It was one of those movies like, well, let's just find out. You know what I mean? If I don't like it in a half an hour or whatever, I'll turn it off kind of film. And then I was like, oh no, that was actually, I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, I like that one. So what's your number 8?
My number 8 is The Art of Self-Defense with Jesse Eisenberg.
Oh, that was good. I like that one.
And that was one of those movies where it's just like, it was another one on Netflix where I was just kind of scrolling through of like the 19 movies. And I was like, I literally ran across, I was like, there's just people like throwing fucking punches and kicks and so on. I was like, Jesse Eisenberg. I'm like, what's this kung fu movie I missed out on? And then it's just like,
Jesse Eisenberg.
I was like, this sounds.
I'll watch that shit.
Yeah, I mean, like, get me wrong, like, Jesse Eisenberg's one of those people, like, by this point, like, I actually really like him as an actor, but I was like, fuck it, let me see what it is. So I rented it and whatnot, and it was one of those movies I had no idea what this movie was fucking about. It was just like, pop it in, fucking looks like they're doing some kind of martial art, Jesse Eisenberg, and then you just kind of see this kind of loser guy who works a basic, boring job. Nobody seems to like him, you know what I mean? He goes home. He's got, like, his kind of, like, wimpy apartment and, small dog and all kinds of stuff like this. And then it's like, all of a sudden, it's like he gets the fucking shit beat out of him by a motorcycle gang. And he's like, well, I got to go, figure out some self-defense. So at first he goes to get a gun. You know what I mean? Like, like any normal person would do. And then he decides not to. And he stumbles across this martial arts club. And from that point on, once he's in this martial arts club, the way that the dialogue in the movie is like so like unnaturally how people talk. But I just love the way it is, just the way it is. Like once he starts getting really into it and gets more into it, and it's almost like these people like treat it like this lifestyle like change, which is like almost how I feel sort of like martial arts should be anyways. But like to like this weird level of like almost like it's a cult, but also at the same time differently. Just parts where Jesse Eisenberg's like, once he gets his yellow belt, he's like, I feel strong with my yellow belt. I started wearing my yellow belt everywhere I go. And he has it like around him as he's walking in like the office with like fucking like a tie on and a collared shirt and tucked in shirts into like slacks and whatnot. And it's just the small things in that movie are fucking hilarious and amazing. And it's one of those films where it's like, it's really not even like the greatest movie ever made, but it's one of those ones where like nothing is really like it, and the more you think about it, there's just parts in it, it's just like they're just so golden and so amazing.
Well, it's so weird because the movie itself is very muted and everything seems very kind of stale, and it's like it's an alternate world where you can get away with killing somebody and it's not a big deal. You could literally talk your way out of it. You're like, oh well, he came at me, so I had to do what I had to do. Now I'm running his dojo. Like, oh, okay, all right, cool. It's kind of like there's a part like earlier, like it's a world where it's really hostile too. Like there's a part when he's just like talking, like he's in the break room and there's some guys sitting around a table and like, oh yeah, can you believe fucking Gary trying to invite us all over to his place for barbecue? Oh yeah, fuck him. He's trying to be he's our boss, but he's trying to be nice. Fuck him. What should we do? I don't know. Maybe we could mess up with his computer. I don't know. We could burn his house down. Just hear him say that randomly, just in most casual way possible. And then that's when Jesse Eisenberg walks in. He says oh well, he's really nice. I was over there a little bit ago. I met his wife. They just had a baby, so I don't think you should burn down his house. It's arson. It's not good. Who are you? Oh, I'm in the accounting department. I do this. You're the guy who looks at our accounting? Yeah. Get the fuck out of here. Okay, all right. Then he just leaves. And then later, when he actually starts getting way more confident, he goes over there. He's just let's all start doing push-ups. You're not doing push-ups. You're not manly enough. I want that chair. You move. I'm sitting there. And then the others just look at him like, you heard him. You get out of the chair. So it's just that kind of shit. Or it's there's the part, going back to the belt. At some point, he's like, you know what? I went and got, custom-made belts of all of our colors. And Sensei, I got one for you. Yours is a black belt. It's just a standard, regular-ass black belt. He's oh, wow. I feel like I'm empowered now. The concept of wearing a traditional black belt never crossed his mind.
Yeah, it's just it's weird small things like that, because the whole kind of story too is almost the fact of how to be pretty much, it's almost a story of just how to be more manlier, and as it kind of goes on, and there's almost there's a right way and a wrong way to sort of do it. It's kind of the moral of it, but the whole point of the movie is just manlier, because even Jesse Eisenberg at the very end is top tier manly, almost old school caveman, whoo, I'm in charge here now. And so is she. We together will be in charge. But there's a part where it's just I love when the sensei is talking to fucking Jesse Eisenberg. So she's like, so what kind of music are you listening to? He's like, well, adult contemporary. And he just has this look on his face no. You will, from this point on, you will never listen to that again. You will only listen to metal. Metal is the only masculine music that you're gonna need. He's like, well, what are some of your hobbies? He's like, well, I'm learning French, and he has that oh, no. Today you will forget that. You need a manly language like German or Russian. And I even there's a part where Jesse Eisenberg goes home, and he's there's a little dog there. He's and he says it in German and stuff. He's like. I cannot hold you anymore. I have been coddling you too much. It is making you weak.
Well, there's also a lot of parts, without spoiling who or what happens, there's a point earlier in the movie where he's learning a technique, and it's like you will punch with your foot and kick with your fist. And later somebody gets attacked, and he's talking to a doctor, and he's like, Doctor, what's it like? Well, I can tell you he didn't go down without a fight, but look at the scar tissue. It's so weird. It was like he was almost punched with a foot. That. Something nobody would fucking say. But the thing about the movie is, near the third act, it actually starts to go a very dark and sinister route. It's still in this weird kind of surrealist world, but it gets very dark at the end of the movie. But it doesn't feel too out of place. It really flips it, but at the same time, it still plays by these same rules where people are just very nonchalant. Because earlier he walks in and they're teaching a children's class, and the children's class is literally teaching you how to kill somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Like, not just self-defense, you know what I mean? Like, beyond that. Well, and I think that's kind of how it works, is the movie starts off as kind of like a weird kind of drama comedy that's, like, almost very dry.
Quasi-Napoleon Dynamite?
Yeah, and then as it goes on, it goes down just a darker path, till it gets, like, really dark, and then it kind of comes back up again, and I don't know, it's one of those movies where it's like, as about halfway in the movie, I remember kind of being like, this is good, maybe not as amazing as I thought it was, but it was one of those movies that was a total, like, you finish the movie, and then the next day you wake up and you go, oh, that was a really good movie. You know what I mean? Like, that was something way different. And I just like the idea that nobody's really made a movie I've ever seen that focused so much on the belts and the belts colors and almost like the hierarchy of that. You know what I mean? Because you always kind of think of like in Taekwondo or something, it's like, well, yeah, the belts are there just to kind of show how far along you've been. Where in this movie, they treat those colors like with such pride and such power and such like, like this is your rank in life almost. And I think something about that was very kind of interesting and cool.
Yeah, well, there's even that part where one guy's like, you have the blue belt. I can never take that from you. But I can't take your arm. Bam! Just totally fucks up his arm. Like, dislocates. You don't see bone shooting out, but that's what happens. Like, you see it's all swollen, like, it's all soaked in blood and all that, like, his gi.
Uh-huh.
Like, how serious he takes that. Like, I cannot take your belt from you, but I can take something else.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a very interesting movie. It's like one of those movies where it's like, I feel like it's like probably like, out of all my movies on my list, it's like, it's not definitely my favorite one out of them all, but like, it's one of those ones, like, I almost recommend it higher than anything else, because it's like, if you want to see something different, interesting, fun, funny, dark, crosses so many things, this is the movie to see.
Well, there's also a weird kind of, I think it helps with the blandness, but there's also a weird artistic choice. If they're going to like a bar, it just says bar. If he's going to get dog food for his dog, it's just a bag that says dog food.
Yeah, everything's just so almost like black and white, plain and simple, Mm-hmm.
Do you mind if you just pause for like literally 2 seconds? 1 sec.
Go for it.
All right, sorry for that. Back.
Okay, well, that was my number 8. What's your number 7?
My number 7 is, and I know I was talking a little down about it. I mean, I liked it, but I was talking a little bit down about it when we first talked about it. But my number 7 is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh, I know, because the first time you saw it, and I told you, I was like, dude, it's going to be a Jackie Brown. That's what this movie is. You know what I mean? It's like, you're going to watch it the first time and be like, that's good, but, probably like one of my least favorite of the Tarantino movies, but as it keeps going on, the more you watch it, you're going to enjoy it even more. And that's how I definitely feel about Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Most of the time Mexico. That's like my go-to one, I guess, whenever I think of those films. But is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I've only watched it a couple times so far, but every single time I watch it, I like it that much more. I mean, like, I like it from start to finish. I really enjoy it. I don't think there's actually a dull moment in it. The whole way through, I'm entertained.
It's one of those movies that, like, when I first saw it, I liked it. And the more I thought about it, I was like, there's a little bit more of like I wish they did more of this, less of that, because the Sharon Tate thing, a lot of her stuff is kind of boring and kind of stands out, and I get what they're trying to do. But it felt
I guess I will say
to me.
That stuff, I mean, I know why it's in there, but that probably, if there is a part that's kind of like my least favorite parts, it's some of those parts.
But thinking back on the movie, and I watched it again recently. I've only seen it twice. Saw it once in theaters, and ironically enough, last time I was in town visiting, my parents ended up buying it digitally, and I watched it, and it was one of those things like I liked it when I first saw it, but I liked it more the second time around. I don't know if I like it as much as say because it was like you say it's kind of a similar effect Jackie Brown, because Jackie Brown went from being like, one of my least favorite Tarantino movies, and as time went on, I don't know what happened, but as time went on, it became like I liked it a lot more, and it's probably somewhere in my top 3 or 4 Tarantino films. This one's still probably mid-range Tarantino, but I definitely like it more from when I first saw it. And it's more of just a slow, once going into it, knowing what it is, knowing it's a slow, chill out, hang out kind of movie. Because I guess I was almost thinking, because it's about like, this struggling actor and his stuntman. I almost imagine it being more of like going to see it, like him trying to pull off some kind of deal to get out of the industry or to get like a job, and then something along those lines would involve Charles Manson or something to that effect. And I was expecting something kind of like, sort of like, maybe not a heist, but like a con or something like that. Just Tarantino type shit, But then realizing, oh, it's more of a day in the life kind of movie. And then, still enjoying it, but then like, oh, okay, it's a little bit more Inglourious Bastards than it is other stuff. But then still watching it again, like, you know what? It's still a really good movie. And Brad Pitt and Leo DiCaprio by themselves are really fun to watch, but when they're together, it's like magic. It's like I would watch a whole movie series. Well, first off, I watch a whole movie series of just that Brad Pitt character, but I would also watch a movie series just those two hanging out.
Oh yeah, dude. Like that's one of those ones where it's like you could give me another movie of just those two guys together. Shit, you could give me an early days movie of that where like it's like the 8 years beforehand, like when they're just shooting the whatever the heck it's called, Bronco. What the fuck was their show called?
Lancer? The Lawman show. I remember what it's called, but
the Bounty Law.
Bounty Law. That's right.
Yeah. So I would watch one of just those two characters over and over like that. But no, I really enjoyed that one, and it is totally the hangout film. And I think that's the thing is once you kind of understand what it is, and you know what you're kind of into, like you just watch it and you just like absorb that dialogue. Those scenes are great and so on like that. And then plus, I said that Knives Out had one of the best endings ever. Well, something that tops that ending more than anything else. This ending right here. Like if there's not an ending that puts a bigger smile on your face than this, I don't know what is. Because you watch this and it's just like magic. It really just is like. It's almost like, because I know it's like, in a sense, like, I'll say it's the last handful of movies Tarantino's done. What he pretty much has done in every single one of them is he gives you, like, almost like the perfect ending in every single one. And I'll even say there's a movie that, like, it's not my perfect ending, but I get where it's coming from, is like Death Proof is, I think, kind of the start of when he wanted to really do those. Because, there's somebody be like, I guess if you are being, like, hunted by a killer and whatnot, and then you just flip on the killer and actually kill them. I guess by that standard, it's a perfect ending. As a Kurt Russell fan, you're like, that ain't the fucking perfect ending, but that's beyond the point. You kind of go to his next movies, Inglourious Bastards. It's the perfect ending. They fucking just kill Hitler and everything like that. You go to Django Unchained, it's got that badass fucking shootout at the end, just so cool, And then you go to
Hateful Eight.
Drawing a blank right now on that. The one they're in the cabin in the snow.
Hateful Eight.
Hateful Eight. And I remember that movie too, watching it in theaters, because you're like, God, I hope this character like doesn't make it, so on. The very end of that movie has like the best like choice of how that movie could have ended. And it's just like the characters you want to live are just together and just like, yes. It just gives you that yes feeling. And then like it feels like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood just tops that off even more of giving you that like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, well, especially kind of by that point, watching the movie and keep in mind the tone of the rest of the movie, I was kind of like, okay, it's going to do one of two things. Spoilers ahead here. It's going to do one of two things. It's either just going to like kind of loosely, because I don't see them actually showing the murder. And if they do, they're not going to show the whole thing. But it's either going to just be, we had a fun time, but this is where everything ends kind of sadly. And this is where Hollywood starts to change. Or they're just going to Inglourious Bastards and just surprise you and change history here, which is, by that point, I was like, I think they might do that with this movie, because he's done that before, and also, I don't think of the killing of Sharon Tate and everybody else in that house would really fit the rest of what this movie was. And then once the one lady, Ethan Hawke's daughter, drives off with the car, I'm like, okay, it's gonna do something different because she didn't do that in real life. So here we go.
Yeah, so I don't know. That movie to me is just an overall fun, great movie. Like I really enjoy it.
One of my favorite parts of the movie, it's such a small thing, but it's like when they're like, oh, our episode of FBI comes on tonight, and they're just sitting there watching it, and it's more panned on the TV as they're watching, like, oh, that was a nice jump, thanks, man, you know. And then all of a sudden he's just like, the star comes in like, that guy's a fucking asshole.
Well, that totally reminded me of like that's no different than like making a movie yourself, and then you just kind of like sit down with your like buddy, be like, oh dude, let's watch this fucking movie you made. Oh, okay, cool. And then it's just like, you know, even if you're watching a movie you made like in high school or something like that, and you just see all the people in there, you're like, oh, I fucking hate that kid. Like, why'd you put him in the movie? I don't know, he's fucking there. You know what I mean? And that's
the one available at the moment.
That sort of reminded me of like that kind of like that commentary, like, you know, it's like that sort of thing where like, you're not supposed to talk in the movie theater, but like if you're at home and you're like with a buddy and you're watching something that you are already kind of a part of and you kind of have behind the scenes like almost like knowledge of it, like I just love that little like commentary part on there because I feel like that feels so real. Like if you were sitting down with your friend, you know, and you watching something that you guys created or worked on.
Yeah, and that I love that scene, and just of course there's the crazy action scene at the end, but it's also just Brad Pitt's character just steals that movie. I just watched a movie with him traveling the road. There's even a lot of the lines he has when he's talking to I think her name's Margaret Qualley, the actress, when he's talking to that character. And he's all like, you know, he's like, the law dog's been coming after me since I could talk, and I'll be damned if I go in because of you. Like, I'm not gonna fuck around with you at all. Don't try nothing sly. You're not gonna get one up on me. Or there's even the part with Dakota Fanning when like the totally felt like Texas Chainsaw Massacre when there's so much tension building, and he's like, well, it's been a long time. I'd like to see whatever the guy who the property owner there. He says, I'd like to see him. He's like, well, he's sleeping. He's like, yeah, well, I came a long way, and there's nothing, and I don't think you or this screen door is gonna stop me. He just stands there. He looks over his shoulder. Army of dirty hippies behind him, like, oh fuck, Brad Pitt's not a real person, he could die, you know. And then like she's like, fine, like, fuck. There's so many, like, that whole moment is so tense, you know. That's like the bar scene in Inglourious Bastards.
Oh yeah, it's just so good, and just the tension it builds, and just like the dirtiness, and like just that, like all the attention to detail, like just all the small things, like how nobody in that, you know, there's like 50 people that fucking live there, but not a single person's ever lifted their, you know, finger once to like clean it up.
Yeah. No, it's just such a Tarantino's always had a great attention to detail, especially the level of like, oh, that's a real producer. Oh, that's a real director. Oh, that's a real actor. A lot of the people are just naming from like costume design or whatever, or people Tarantino kept an eye on, like, oh, well, that guy, he worked on Green Hornet, and he also worked on Lancer, and he did this and that, and he was most well known for this, just like, you know, just like that type of shit.
Yeah, you just don't get that very often.
So yeah, that is my number 7.
So if that's your number 7, well, my number 7 is Avengers Endgame.
Avengers Endgame, yeah.
And that's just one of those ones, like, you just bring it all kind of together right there, and you get a huge, you know, ending battle scene and whatnot. And even though they got kind of time travel, it still sort of works. Because, you know, there's some movies where, like, you know, you have a time travel thing like that. Like, I almost even thought, too, it's like, it almost, like, there's that kind of contemplation you have where you're like, would it be better just to kind of keep it sort of in the dark where it's like, yeah, shit fucking happens, get used to it, you know what I mean? Like, or do we have the fucking Santa Claus ending where we go back in time and fix everything, you know, and so on? But it works in the Avengers Endgame somehow, some way. Like, it's like, you know what, it doesn't really throw, I mean, like, granted, I could go with the fucking dark apocalypse type ending and just be like, yeah, the characters that I generally like are still alive, so it's okay. I mean, like, yeah, there's a couple of them I wish I had, but, you know, just like real life, you don't get everything you want.
All that being said, it's one of those movies I know that going into Infinity War, I knew a lot of these characters were going to come back. And when we first walked out of Infinity War, I was like, I liked it. I wasn't blown away. And then as time went on, I liked it more. And by the time we came to our review that year, it wasn't like number 1 or 2, but it was like, I think somewhere like around 10 or 8, 9, maybe somewhere around that area. And, and when it comes to Endgame though, that one I liked so much more than Infinity War, because Infinity War was cool. It had a lot of action, and this one still has a lot of action. It has like some of the best action scenes you've ever seen in a superhero movie. But I think, and I don't want to sound all cheesy, aside from the big giant action scene at the end, I think my favorite period of the movie is just them kind of coping and kind of dealing with the loss of everything. Because this isn't a comedy. It's one of the hardest things to do is when you had something go on for this long and still have it pull off and still make it feel like that was all worth it. And this movie definitely felt like it was all worth it. And there's so many audible fuck yeah moments throughout this movie. I mean, I'm going to say, if you don't like Marvel movies, this one's probably not going to change your mind. But at the same time, I think this is a movie that could get some people, not all people, but some people like, oh wow, there's more to this than I thought. Because it kind of redeems certain characters for me that kind of annoyed me. Because at some point, I'll be honest, I always liked Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, but I thought he was kind of hogging the spotlight too much in some movies, and they're enforcing too many jokes in there at some point. I've kind of warmed more up to him, but by this, ever since Civil War, though, I think that they found that perfect balance. Other people will be like, fuck you, he's always had it. Well, I mean, I just thought he was always good, but I always thought they'd try to push him too much. I think by Civil War and onward, they've had him dialed in perfectly, of the funny guy, but this guy who's still kind of haunted and kind of has an immense amount of guilt.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree too, because I feel like exactly about that same time period, I started to actually like Iron Man a lot more, because before I remember that was like the one character I'd be like, dude, he's like, everybody thinks he's the fucking greatest person ever. I don't fucking get it. That's how I sort of felt. And now I can go back and watch the old Iron Man and be like, yeah, okay, now I just accept it because that's just what it is. But there was a time period where it's just like, I'm like, I don't get the fucking Iron Man character. Like, that's fucking weird. That's never how I read him in the comics and whatnot. And,
I mean, I'm sorry, I cut you off. There's the delay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it's just, but by this point, I kind of like the sort of the tragic kind of Robert Downey Jr. character, where he still throws a couple jokes out here and there, but they don't just make him like a fucking jukebox walking around fucking spurting out a joke every 2 or 3 lines. Because that was always what got me in that first Avengers movie. It's just it was almost so comedy oriented, and it's just you gotta I know somebody told you that was some of that stuff's funny, but it's either, are you making a superhero movie or are you making Mel Brooks Presents the Avengers? You know what I mean? You got to pick one or the other. Don't try to go this middle route. It's weird.
I feel like in watching the other movies, the only one that I think that they're trying too hard on the comedy is Iron Man 2. And then even though Iron Man 3 is a good story and Shane Black is a fantastic director, I think Iron Man 3, there are moments where the comedy kind of ruins the momentum, but still a good movie. But this movie right here, Robert Downey Jr. aside, this is kind of like my girlfriend. When we went to go see this movie, she's only seen a handful of Marvel movies. She saw Black Panther. That was her first one, and you can kind of go into that one fairly blind. And then she had a long plane ride, so she was like, all right, well, I'll watch Infinity War because it's 3 hours and I got a long plane ride, so I might as well kill some time. My new boyfriend likes this shit, so I might as well see what it's all about. Had no idea what was going on. I was like, I didn't know what was going on, but it was still kind of entertaining. I knew who Black Panther was. And then I showed her I showed her Civil War, and then we watched Spider-Man, and then going to see this. So there's a lot of things to kind of fill in. But all that being said, she was still kind of I really liked it. I thought it was way better. I mean, I figured it'd be good, but even with all the things even all the missing information, I still see why people like this. It was still a really fun movie, and there actually was a lot of character development there.
Yeah, well, and this one too, it's a lot of the characters they kind of keep are always the very interesting ones, and then plus you get a little bit more Hawkeye in this one, because I was always afraid this whole time they were going to kill Hawkeye off. I thought that since Avengers 1, I'm they're going to fucking kill Hawkeye. I just fucking know it. It's my favorite Marvel character, and they just know he's not going to make it. And even in this movie where they have that moment where like him and Black Widow are like, fuck you, no, fuck you, I'm gonna kill myself, no, I'm gonna kill myself. I remember just sitting there and be like, and it was almost like everybody else has that moment like,
butthole clenched.
Yeah, like Black Widow's gonna fucking die, or like, you know, I'm like, just don't kill Hawkeye. And then when I remember when Black Widow died, I was like, I felt like, oh, geez, I'm relieved. Oh, anybody need like a drink or something like that? Like, geez, it's okay though. They're like, oh my gosh, what are you talking about? Black Widow just died. I'm like, oh, that's okay. That's my least fucking favorite Avenger. Like, Hawkeye survived, everything is golden.
I said this when we first talked about that movie, but I was like the only person laughing so... We had like, I must have like a stigmata twin moment or some shit, because I was laughing so hard when she died because everyone's looking at me like, what's wrong with this fucking psycho? Because I was there like, oh, don't let, because I'm running through, like, watching one of these movies. If you're one of those people who stays educated on what movies are coming out and who has this many movies or whatever, it's kind of hard to kind of like not keep that in mind while watching it. So I'm like, all right, they're talking about a Hawkeye show. But for all I know, it could be Kate Bishop Hawkeye. But Black Widow has her own movie coming out. But what if that's a prequel? I don't know. It is a prequel. But, you know, then but there is more than one Black Widow. So it could be her sister. That's who the Black Widow movie could be. Oh shit, is that? Then all of a sudden, oh, okay. Jeremy Renner made it. Hawkeye's okay. And then just after that, for a split second, like, Spencer's happier than a pig in shit right now. Because I know you saw it before me, so I can just imagine you. It's like, oh, thank. The character everybody else loves is dead. All right.
Yeah, the character that everybody else seems to fucking hate, like I love, so fuck you guys. I get my Jeremy Renner.
I never hated or disliked Black Widow or even Scarlett Johansson. I just never really cared for a character that much, but by the end of that movie, by this point in the series, I was more endeared to her.
Yeah, well, I'll say I don't hate the character. It's just that's like literally my least favorite of, as far as not Black Widow, I guess you'd say in comic books, but as far as in the movies, that's literally my least favorite character of everybody else. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's anybody I could think of that's, you know, other than maybe some real like C character, but out of all the main ones, I'm like, so it's like, whew. That's okay. She can go away as long as Hawkeye stays. It's all that matters. You know, fuck. Roll credits. I don't need to see any more. I'm already saved. It's probably safer if we roll credit. If we roll credits now, I don't trust this. He might not make it any farther.
This is another thing. Every so often, people complain about like nods, winks, and hints to previous movies, or makes it panderish or whatever. This is one where I think most of the nods and winks it gives to previous movies actually affect the story one way or the other. And not just the time travel aspect, but, you know, like Falcon saying on your left to Cap, because that is such like a fuck yeah moment. Mm-hmm. But that's also the first time they meet. And after he thinks he lost his best friend, he thinks he's about to lose this battle. Thing he needs most right there is on your left, and he gets it. So there's a lot of things like that in that movie that seem so minor and small, but always come full circle. I mean, the thing with Cap with the grabbing Thor's hammer, just such a small throwaway moment in Avengers, which was funny. Avengers 2, but then it happens here, and it's just like one of the most fuck yeah moments possible in that whole, not just Avengers, but the whole MCU series.
Plus, it's also the thing where you're like, America is worthy. That's all you think when you see that, too. It's just like, fuck yeah. Who grabbed that? America grabbed it. USA! You know what I mean?
Saw this. I saw
was it Captain Britain that grabbed it? You know
they're talking about, you know, they're running out of ideas. They're talking about, we're going to maybe do a Union Jack movie down the line. Like, all right, let's make Luke Cage first before we jump to Union Jack, all right?
Yeah. Sure, we got some other characters that could even use more movies, like, you know, The Punisher and so on. So
I want a Heroes for Hire movie, and if I don't want to be one of those people who's just like reboot it again, but they might not acknowledge the Netflix, the TVMA Netflix Marvel movies because or TV shows because they never really, you know, it was kind of still sort of a separate department. Like the Netflix Marvel TV shows would be kind of like they would acknowledge things from the movies, but the movies would be like, we don't know you guys. Who the fuck are you? And so now that they might bring those together, I'm really hoping. I mean, I liked the first season of Luke Cage. I didn't care for Iron Fist. I'm like, I really want Heroes for Hire. Give me Heroes for Hire. Make it a, make me a badass action movie with like kung fu and yeah. I don't know. I'll stop there.
Yeah,
forever.
That'd be badass, but yeah, back to Avengers and so on. No, it does, especially that last 40 minutes or whatever. That big battle just totally delivers. It's just all around badass. Everybody kind of gets a moment, so whatever character you did like they all kind of come back, and they do have cool scenes and so on like that. And then to top it off, it does have a good kind of round up everything. You know what? We're gonna take back the stones. Everybody's gonna have a good old time, and people go on their own paths, but it has a very warm, happy feeling and so on like that. Okay, we're back together and so on. But those still leave off that, okay, well, now you could do kind of almost something completely different now. And take some of these characters with you, bring some new characters in, and what have you. It's not just a total, it's not like a total ending. It's not like one of those ones where you're like, fuck yeah, roll credits, never play that don't put anything after this. It's no, it's just like a end of a chapter, I guess you would say.
Other than Loki grabbing the cosmic cube and bouncing for a minute, everything else feels like it could have ended right there. But at the same time, makes total sense that it's all moving forward. If they said, you know what, we're going to stop the MCU after this movie. I'm like, well, you guys ended on a fucking amazing note right there. So congrats, good job. But it doesn't feel weird that they're continuing it. It's just one of those things it makes sense for it to end this way. It makes sense for these characters to exit, and it does it very gracefully, and it does it in a way that feels very natural to the series and still means something.
Yeah, exactly. No, it is a good place to kind of sort of stop and kind of reshift gears. And I know that they're gonna try some other kind of random ass characters and see how that kind of goes, but no, it's almost there's probably going to be that sort of a, granted, you got the Black Widow movie coming out right around the corner and so on. But there might be that little bit of I feel a slight break, and then it'll start kind of ramping back up again. Or if they're smart, they would give you kind of a little bit of a break. Enough that you let this kind of moment settle in, and then you go on. It's almost the same thing they should do with Star Wars, too, is they should probably just let that sort of settle in.
Give room to breathe.
And then come back with it, you know what I mean? Yeah.
I think the biggest thing, and I don't want to lead to a whole other tangent here, but I think the biggest thing between Star Wars and Marvel, because Star Wars thought they can come in and crank out 1 or 2 movies a year and still run like Marvel. The thing about Marvel is, yeah, it is this big connected universe, but at the same time, you're not waiting 1 or 2 years to see Captain America again. You're waiting 4 years before you get to see Captain America again. A lot of these characters, sometimes there are movies back to back, but usually it's kind of okay, you get this many Spider-Man movies, you get this many Iron Man movies, you get this many Avengers movies. Where Star Wars, even though it's a giant galaxy, Star Wars is very much to most people Star Wars. So you can get kind of Star Wars fatigue. And even though it's another Marvel movie, and some people are fatigued by Marvel movies, but those things still keep making a fuck ton of money. So I don't know, it's not stopping yet. There's enough characters there that could stand on their own. So it's one of those things, if you come up with a Star Wars movie every other week, or not every week, but every year, it went from being this thing, you only got once every 2 years for a 10-year period, between 10 years, and then now it's this thing you get all the time, and now it feels a little bit more of a rushed product. And I liked Rise of Skywalker, and but it didn't blow me away, but I liked it. I'll tell you this, it didn't make my list. So.
Yeah, it didn't make my list either, and it's just one of those ones where it's just, I don't know, it's just it ain't fucking George Lucas. That's all I gotta say.
I liked it, but at the same time, it was it was a good movie. It was enjoyable. People are being a little harsh on it. At the same time, I understand a lot of the criticisms that movie got, but we're not talking about that's neither here nor there. I think Marvel has a better way of just it's still that same universe. You may make a reference to this character or that character, but when you're getting tired of this character, we're going to jump to this character over here, and I think that's why Marvel has longevity. And one of the things I'm most excited for Marvel, I never read this character, I know very little about him, but they're making Shang-Chi, the Master of Kung Fu, is one of their next Phase 4 movies. So it's like, oh my god, we might actually get another martial arts movie in theaters.
Oh yeah, that's sweet because there was a period where people were almost kind of like, oh, like that might be racist. It's like, what are you talking about? Like that was like the people were when they were making that kind of when Stan Lee was fucking putting together that kind of stuff. That was like a nod to being like, fucking martial arts and Asian culture is amazing. Let's make fucking comic books on it. You know what I mean? So I'm glad they finally are coming back and saying, no, that's cool. Let's do it.
Well, he's like a secret agent martial arts spy. So that's his whole thing. So, and I'm like, all right, I don't really know anything about him, but let's go from there. And apparently he's going to be going against the Mandarin. So that Iron Man villain we never really got to see, which they teased, but never actually getting the real Mandarin.
Exactly. So that'd be pretty sweet. But yeah, I'm going to say, yeah, that was Avengers was my number 7. Probably should carry on the list, I guess, or else we'll just go on a Marvel tangent. What's your number 6?
My number 6. Now, this one's probably going to cause some controversy because I know we both felt differently about this movie. My number 6 is Us.
Oh, Us? Yeah, this is one of those ones, like, I saw this one and I was really excited for it because I liked Get Out, like, a lot. I was actually really impressed with that one. I'm like, oh, dude, it's like fucking like Resident Evil. It's badass. And then Us felt like, oh, this is like when somebody was told that, like, dude, that movie you made so cool, like, so fucking weird and everything like that. It's like, oh, I guess I gotta crank the weirdness up. It's almost the equivalent of, like, a sequel that, like, someone had, like, there was an action movie and it had a little bit of comedy in it, and people said, like, dude, that movie you had was fucking hilarious. Like, oh, you like some of those jokes in there? That was just kind of like a side notion. Well, I guess the sequel, I gotta crank the comedy, and then next thing you know, it's like an action comedy. That's sort of how Us felt. It felt like it was trying to crank the weirdness up, and I was like, no, that's kind of... The one that I think about Us is that movie was just meant to scare black people from going to Santa Cruz. That was my takeaway from that movie. I was like, I could see a black guy being like, especially someone like in New York being like, shit, I ain't ever going to Santa Cruz. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the fuck goes on over there, but maybe this is a message that's being spread around, is don't go to fucking Santa Cruz if you're black.
Well, I'll say the whole thing about this movie is, and I don't know, there's essays and all these about it, like, oh, what is it trying to say this about culture? Is it trying to say this about, segregation? Is it trying to say this about have and have-nots, whatever? At the end of the day, I didn't like it as much as Get Out, but at the same time, I don't know, I think it's one of those movies I didn't go in with low expectations. I didn't actually see it in theaters. I remember my girlfriend and I, we were house sitting for somebody, and we saw Us on like Hulu or something. Like, oh, let's check this out. And it was one of those movies, like, I already heard you say you disliked it. I heard other people say, you know what, I didn't like Us that much. It didn't do it for me. And then it was like, all right, well, let's watch it. I'm not expecting to be as good as Get Out, but kind of going in with lower expectations, I was really surprised. Now, I'll say this. I love the concept of the idea of, like, and it's very creepy, the idea of, like, okay, there's a failed government experiment to make clones of, if there's an American, that American gets cloned, and then that means that there's like there's a weird psychic link they share with the person above, but they're all just kind of huddled in this area, and they're almost kind of like zombie-like, just going through the motions, knowing what they're doing upstairs, but they can't do nothing about it. Now, I guess the only real complaint of the movie is how do these, like, I can believe if you're really thrown off, like, what the fuck, these people just start coming out of nowhere and just start shanking. I can understand how that could lead to some kind of, like, not the end of the world shit, but cause havoc for a period of time. At the same time, though, I could also see, I think it could have used more explanation, like, of what they were, how that all functioned. Not to the point of, like, okay, let's have, like, just 5 minutes of exposition of a scientist. Like, we had the best intentions, but this is what happened. Nothing like that. But at the same time, I think it could have used a little more exposition. But all that aside, it was genuinely really creepy. And it didn't rely on jump scares. And it also I think it did have something interesting to say. Kind of like the idea of, like, spoilers here. The girl, the main lady of the movie, turns out to be one of the tethered, one of these clone people. And earlier on in the movie, she got switched and flipped around. And I guess it kind of brings in the idea of, like, oh, someone from the bottom can rise up and actually be a good, loving person. And someone from above can be one of these monsters just given the right surrounding. Like I like that message, like that thing of like, dude, if you're in that same position, who knows what the fuck you would do to get by or feel a little bit of power.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's still there's still interesting things about the movie. It's just I just remember I just felt like it just didn't feel like it delivered as well as it was, and I think sort of like maybe if there was a little bit more explanation, it was kind of like sort of the same way I felt about like the Quiet Place movie. Like I remember that was when I was like, that was just okay. Like I felt like if you would have explained to me more of like what the hell was going on, like I don't give a fuck about the family. Like I could care less about your family problems. I want to know where these fucking liquor-like looking creatures came from and like what they're doing and so on. And maybe the second one will explain it. But I'm kind of feel like, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's like, well, I know there's people out there that they like movies when they don't explain like anything at all. I'm kind of one of those opposite people. Like I love like give me the fucking explanation, not like the hand-holding explanation, but like I want to know the backstory. I want to know that kind of stuff. I don't want to just sit there and kind of make my own stories up around it because I came to see your movie, not my movie.
Well, I thought like there's enough there to kind of like keep me satisfied, but I think there could have been just a little bit more explanation because I at the end of the day I got what the movie was trying to say. I like the whole part, and the movie still has like, you know, it's by Jordan Peele, so it has still some of that kind of sense of humor. I like the whole part when, you know, that one douchey family they're kind of friends with starts getting, because when you're watching it, you're like, okay, this family's getting attacked by their clones or whatever. And they'll say, oh shit, they got clones too. And like, cause you know, like what happens is their clones just come in, they stab them in the neck out of nowhere. Like, and you don't even see it coming. There's no like shrill jump scare noise. Just walk around the corner, you know, like that. Like, oh shit. And then the mom, I thought, even though it looked like a dark moment, I still thought it was really funny. She's like crawling on the ground and she calls out like, Alexa, call the police. Playing fuck the police. Playing that as they're like looming through the house trying to like kill these fucking things.
Oh yeah, that was kind of a little funny moment and so on too. I think if I remember correctly, because I haven't really seen it since whenever it came out, but like, did it have like, I remember like a lot of the death scenes were very simple if I remember correctly, but I could be kind of wrong. As I said, it's been like a year since I've seen that movie.
It's more of a creep factor than a gore fest. The only one that, and they didn't really show it a whole lot, like one of the clones got pulled into like, it was a boat and got pulled into like the propeller of a boat, and you just saw a bunch of blood come out of the water as he just gets pulled under. And then the one, spoilers folks, another one, like the creepiest of the whole family was the little girl. She was the fucking creepiest because she had that like big wide-eyed smile, face would barely change, she just run and just stab people. And there's that part where they fucking hit her with the car and they get out of the car and check her, and she's like basically bent like in a way, like her back is totally broken, her legs are still kicking, and she's still smiling, and she has a knife and she's slashing at him and she can't reach him, but she's like smiling, like almost like still kicking him, still trying to run, but like, bitch, you're split in half like more than Batman when he fought Bane. So it was like one of those things, like there's a lot of genuinely creepy things like that. And maybe, like I said, I could have used more explanation of what those things were or how they're down there and why they didn't rise up sooner maybe. But at the same time, I ultimately get what the movie's trying to say about this have and have not and where you start and where you can end up. And I enjoyed it.
Interesting, yeah. The way you talk about it makes me almost want to see it kind of again, because I just remember like when I walked out, I was like, well, this was stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's one of those things where kind of going in with lowered expectations, not going to lie, not saying that, well, if you didn't tell me this, I wouldn't have liked it more, but kind of going in, just being like, all right, well, let's see what this is all about. I'll be honest, it was one of those movies that kind of like, since we're staying our place, we were house sitting, kind of like, are you sure you want to watch this tonight? There was a moment where like, I'm going to lock all the doors, because, yeah, a little, like, creepy-ass fuck. There was mainly the little girl. She was creepy. And there's also some things in there, I think, that are, like, implied that some of the people that are already in the movie may have been switched around. Like, the little boy, I think he may actually been a bit tethered, because at some point, he's making tunnels, and they implied they'd been to that summer house previously, because he left a thing there. So I think and he's a little like apprehensive of his mom, like, what's with this bitch? She looks kind of different. So I think that there's something about him. I think he may have been one of the kids that got flipped around.
Yeah, well, that's true, because he was doing those weird tunnels, and he kept hiding in closets and so on, and doing fucking weird shit. It makes sense. I don't know.
He's like, he's been acting weird last year, hasn't he? Yeah.
That's probably one of those movies that, yeah, you could give the second watch knowing exactly what it is, and it might be a little bit more interesting the second time around. I don't know. I guess because, like, when I remember just watching it, just feel like it's going to be fucking amazing, and it's just like, oh, I don't know. It felt kind of like spooky to be spooky, not like, it just didn't feel genuine to me. Like, that was how it came across to me, was that, like, it was trying to be, like, weird and scary, but, like, not natural, if that makes any sense. I don't know. There's that weird feeling of, like, where it kind of has, like, you can almost see when someone's being kind of phony or when somebody's being kind of real. And it kind of came across to me as being phony, where, like, Get Out felt, like, real. Like, that felt like a legitimate, like, here's a legitimate scary movie. This is, like, not made to be scary. It just kind of is scary.
Mm-hmm. No, I get what you're saying.
I don't know. As I said, as you talk up Get Out, it actually sounds 10 times more interesting. Like, shit, if you would have told it to me like that, like, before I saw it, I'd be like, dude, I'm fucking down to see this.
Yeah, well, there's every so often those, like, you told me to check out, I mean, I already was probably going to see it again. I was probably going to buy it to fit the collection, but Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like, yeah, Spencer's right. This movie's better the second time around.
Yeah.
So, what's your 6?
What was that, your 6?
Yeah.
So, my number 6 is Good Boys.
I wanted to see that, and that looks like another Superbad parody, but I imagine it does something a little different.
Yeah, you could say it's in, like, the Superbad kind of category, because it's, like, I guess because it's Superbad's, like, teenagers. This one's, like, kids, but, like, it kind of has, like, I guess you would say, like, similar
the
type
unpopular kids trying to achieve a goal to appease the more popular kids.
Yeah, not really in this one as much. I mean, like, I guess you could kind of say that, but this one feels, like, way different. This almost has more, like, that kind of old school, like, almost like you would say, like, the Goonies or, like, Monster Squad without having monsters type kind of feel, where it's just like, hey, here's just some kids living life and so on. And it has, like, a simple premise where, like, they are just trying to get to, like, this, almost like, I want to say it was, like, a kissing game or something like that. Like, there's, like, oh, there's a kissing party or whatever, and so on. That was, like, their whole goal was to get to that. But along the way, they kind of have misadventures and so on. And there's just some really just legitimate funny moments in it. Like, it's just, like, that super dialed in, like, you know, rated R movie that happens to have kids in it and so on. And them trying to get there, you know, riding their bikes and so on, but it never feels kind of like pandering or anything like that. But I think really like also the other take home thing, like, because if I didn't see the movie like 6 months ago, I'd be like, oh, I could like relate some of the jokes and so on. But it's almost been so long, so I just remember it being really good. But like the ending in the movie had like a super powerful like kind of like message in it. Like I almost feel it's like one of those movies that like you would show to like a 10-year-old kid anyways, and you know he would like the rated R jokes in it. But the ending would be like, no, this is the part you take home now, Billy. Watch this ending. Make sure you understand it. Absorb it in. Because the whole point of the ending was like, you know what? Us three guys are really actually kind of different people. You know what I mean? Like, the only reason we really hung out is because we all live on the same cul-de-sac. But we really don't have a whole lot in common. And like they kind of learned this from like some like two college girls that kind of pointed out to them at some point. But it kind of comes back around. And it's not, and as it goes on, it's kind of like almost like those ones at the very end. It's not that they're not friends anymore, but they kind of realize that, hey, this kid is kind of the sports kid, this kid's kind of the nerd kid, and this kid's kind of like the other nerd, but more like not like book smart kind of nerd, more like kind of like the goofy, like he's just gonna do his weird things and play fucking D&D and all that kind of stuff, and that's who he is. And it's like they're friends, but they realize, you know what, I'm probably gonna relate more to these guys over here and so on. But that's not saying that we can't still be friends, but really our best friend is somewhere else out there. You know, just because a cul-de-sac chooses us doesn't mean that's all there is. And I thought that was just kind of a neat message that, like, I don't really see, like, in a movie. And it probably should be, like, in, like, a PG movie for kids. But, like, hell, I'd just show this movie anyways to a 10-year-old anyway. Be like, you're going to learn some life, Billy.
You're going to be a man.
But no, overall though, this movie was really well written.
Be a man, you're gonna be a good boy.
The jokes were fucking great. Like it was like one of those ones. Like the comedy was top notch in it, and so on. And then, as I said, just to top it off, the message was so good that like I was sold. I was like, this is a fantastic film.
I want to check that one out. That one was on my list to see. Didn't get a chance to see it. It seems a lot of those movies, like there's only 3 of them, but they're all kind of loosely connected, whether it be Seth Rogen produced it or, you know, there's somebody related to someone else in the other movie. But like that, Good Boys, Superbad, and Booksmart, all 3 of those movies all have the same theme of like, one way or the other, this may be your best friend, and it's not that that's not important right now, but this doesn't mean this is where it all has to stop. And I think Superbad kind of presented that idea, but wasn't as like, you know, emotional about it. It was more like jokes first and foremost, but still had a little bit of a message. Where this, which going off what you said, I haven't seen it, but I've heard nothing but good things about it. And Booksmart take that and kind of expand on it, make it a little bit more dramatic.
Yeah, well, this one too, because it's like 10-year-old kids or 8-year-old kids or whatever the heck they are, or I guess they're a little bit older than that, probably like 11 or 12. Instead of being like teenagers. I think that's sort of the other difference too, is this one's just like, hey, these ones are just straight up kids.
A little bit more innocence to it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's almost what makes some of the jokes really funny and so on. But yeah, super good comedy. Number 6, mine's Good Boys. What's your number 5?
My number 5 is Spider-Man Far From Home.
That's a good choice. That was the Spider-Man movie that kind of won me back because I didn't like the last one beforehand, like the Spider-Man Homecoming one. Like, I don't know what it was. I was just like, to me, it was just like it wasn't a bad Spider-Man movie, but it was just like an okay Spider-Man movie. If it wasn't for fucking Batman playing the Vulture, I didn't know if I could really like it. But the Spider-Man Far From Home, I was like, oh, that's legitimately really fucking good. I liked it the whole way through.
Well, I even liked Homecoming a lot, and it was a different type of Spider-Man movie, but I really liked that one. And Far From Home, I think, kind of builds off that. I don't know which one I like more, but at the same time, that's one that is legitimately, I mean, there was a lot of comedy in it, but the comedy wasn't bad. And they used Mysterio, which is a character I wanted to see for a while. And I think anyone who knows the comics knew that, like, okay, this is a con or a ploy Mysterio was pulling off. But then when you actually see his grand scale theme, like, that's a very clever way to fit this character into the Marvel universe. And on top of that, it was like, if it didn't have a big action scene going on, the back and forth comedy and relationship stuff was genuinely interesting. And they found a way not just to be like, oh yeah, Tony, spoiler, I mean, who doesn't know by this point, but Tony Stark's dead. Not just a quick little roll off thing, but more of a dude trying to live up to that, and everybody trying to put all this pressure, because everyone knows, oh, it's Spider-Man, but only some people know Spider-Man's really a kid at the end of the day. So everyone just putting all this shit on top of this kid, like, oh, you're gonna be the next Iron Man? Like, oh fuck, I don't know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, and going off that, it's one of those things where I feel like just the action and the adventure side of it alone, plus it's just a different setting for this character. I think something that both Far From Home and Homecoming have done is they put Spider-Man in a little bit of a different setting. Other Spider-Man movies, for instance, he was in high school, but that one was more first and foremost a high school movie, which was different for most Spider-Man films up to that point. And plus, it was more focused, like, in the Queens area, not New York City itself, but more just Queens itself, and more small town, more friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, where this one's like, okay, we're going from, like, 0 to 60 here, because now we're not just in some small little town, now we're going across Europe. So you're definitely out of your element.
Well, plus I feel like that gave also like the same kind of thing that like sometimes I always feel like Batman does well with too, is when you finally take them out of like their main city and it's like, oh, okay, now we get a completely different location for Spider-Man to go swinging around and have cool action scenes and so on at. And I don't know, I just thought that one was overall dialed in. Like, one, Mysterio is one of my favorite villains, so just seeing him and him done well was awesome. Two, it's like the comedy in it when it did have it, like, it all worked. Because that's always my problem with the Marvel movies, is a lot of it's like, it's not that some of the jokes aren't funny, it's just they don't feel like they fit in a superhero movie. They feel like you're watching, like, almost like one of those, like, slapstick, you know, like, disaster movies, or, like, you know, like, epic movie, or something like that kind of things.
Nothing
it's like,
as bad as that. Nothing as bad as, like, epic movie or disaster movie. Nothing that bad.
But it's in that ballpark where it's like, I feel like...
say that... They're not even the same ballpark, not even the same fucking game. You could say maybe a Judd Apatow movie, but don't fucking bring it down to like Friedberg and Seltzer. Don't bring it down to that level, dude. It's not the same fucking thing.
Well, it's leading that way to like that kind of slapstick.
I can prove it mathematically. It's not the same fucking thing.
I'm just saying, it's a moment. It's a moment in there that like, a lot of times just feels like so out of place. That you're
maybe
like,
kills the momentum, the emotional momentum of sometimes.
Yeah, so that's the only thing is this, like, whenever they just have those weird, like, almost like fourth wall breaking, like, slapstick moments that, like, the jokes that don't... It's not that the joke's not funny, but, like, it would be fine if it was, like, you know, fucking... Oh, I'll do it. I'll use my other one. If it was Mel Brooks Presents The Avengers, it would be fine. But it doesn't fit in just if you want straight up Avengers, you know what I mean? Like comic book Avengers or so on. Like I always feel like that's always where it's kind of weird. But the Far From Home though, I thought was like they finally had that one kind of dialed in. And overall, just that's a great Spider-Man movie right there.
All right, what's your number 5?
Let's see. I gotta pull up my old. Oh, my number 5 is Midway.
I wanted to see that.
Dude, Midway was so... I mean, even just from the trailers, it was like, I was already sold into it. I mean, like, one, I like Roland Emmerich a lot. I know people, like, he's one of those, like, toss-up directors, but I'm like, shit, most of his movies, I think, are, like, phenomenal, like, 4 out of 4 movies, practically. I'm dialed in. I'm sold. Like, fucking Patriot, Independence Day, you know, Stargate, Universal Soldier. Like, I don't care. Like, I like Roland Emmerich movies. Even, like, a lot of some of the newer ones I know people don't like near as much. I still enjoy those ones. But
I didn't know Roland Emmerich made that.
Which one?
I didn't know he made Midway.
Oh yeah, so he did Midway, and it was almost like, as far as like that kind of like war movie goes, it was almost the perfect one. Like it starts off right Pearl Harbor, just like instantaneously. Like what's your intro action scene? Pearl Harbor. You know how that was the end of the Michael Bay movie? That's the beginning of our fucking movie. So you have the Pearl Harbor action scene, it's badass and everything like that and so on. Then it's like, fuck it, we're gonna go chase those dirty Japs. So let's get in our ships and go after them. You know, and they go to Battle of Midway out there where, you know, it's that interesting thing because, like, the Japanese army was already, like, so powerful, and you kind of had the U.S., like, all their stuff's all kind of this old rinky-dinky ships and so on that they had over from, like, World War I and so on that they kind of bolstered up and said, oh, okay, because, you know, nobody's planning on being in World War II. They're like, yeah, that's a French problem. That ain't America. You know what I mean? Shit. And you know what? Over on the east side, that's a Chinese problem. That ain't America. And then all of a sudden, fucking Japan comes by, but, like, you get that battle at Midway. And what I like about this movie, too, is it does a good job of kind of like having back and forth. You know, kind of, I guess you could say, there's that old Midway movie, you know, and get like Tora, and so on. But most of those ones I always feel focus more on the American side than like the Japanese side. Where I feel this one has like a good back and forth kind of balance to it as well, too. So you get to see both sides real strongly, and it's not like you feel like it's just like, yeah, fuck yeah, America all the way. Even though sometimes it is kind of like that. You're like, yeah, they fucking bomb Pearl Harbor. Fuck those guys. What, they're like fucking vacation?
Well, I'm surprised. Well,
in the long run, Japan just sits pretty at fucking Hawaii, be like, yeah, well, half of Hawaii is Japanese, so fuck you. Who won Pearl Harbor?
Now it's one of those. Well, it's weird. I only went to like Pearl Harbor once. And it was so weird. Like, I understand now. It's just a huge site. Why wouldn't you want to? You know, if you're there, I imagine you'd want to get educated and see it. But at the same time, I was just like, I'm not gonna lie. First, because there's like, you know, it's like Hawaii itself is this midpoint between America and Japan, and there's a lot of Japanese tourists all over Hawaii. So I'm like, are you guys here just to get educated? Or like, yeah, fuck you. That's what you get, motherfucker. Coming to see Uncle Jiro's handiwork.
But yeah, but no, like you get into the Battle of Midway there, and you get to see all those like big old badass ships and everything and whatnot, and this being like this kind of like the last stand, being like where Japan thought they had it, like fuck, we're just gonna wipe out the Americans and they're gonna run back home, and no, fucking America comes in with their planes that aren't nearly as good as Japanese planes, but that's okay, they got America spirit in there.
They got that heart. They got that. Well, that's one of those things. Like I remember, what was it? It's not that. I mean, I was surprised that Letters to Iwo Jima kind of came out. It's like got a wide release in America. You know, just like, oh, it's a war movie about Iwo Jima. Oh, cool. The subtitles, is that going to keep on happening? Eventually, we're going to see what the Americans are doing, right? Well, that's 2 theaters down. That's Flags of Our Fathers.
Yeah, exactly. Clint Eastwood's directing both of them, so it's okay. How does he talk to the Japanese guys? He's Clint Eastwood. He just gives them a look.
He just stares at him sternly and like, we get it, we understand. All right. Or Ken Watanabe Clint Eastwood and Ken Watanabe lock eyes for a second. Then Ken Watanabe just translates to everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those ones. But yeah, no, like Midway's one of those ones, like that is like a super fucking dialed in war movie. Like totally, like the action's great, the story's great, filled with all kinds of sweet characters and so on. You know, you get to see all the battleships. I mean, granted, it's a lot of CG this day and age, but whatever, it fucking looks cool. You know, get dogfights, you get to watch the planes come in, dropping bombs and so on like that, and just get a real good history lesson just in a nice package, you know what I mean? Because I think this is the nice thing is, like, I noticed, like, ever since about, like, Dunkirk, war movies have been doing something kind of nice where, like, they do that. I call it, like, it's almost like you chop off the first act of a movie and you just kind of go from there. And, I mean, this movie, I guess you could say probably its first act, I guess, is Pearl Harbor, but, like, it doesn't have, like, the classic war movie was always like, we're at home, and here's the family life, and everything is great, and oh god, they're calling us in, we gotta go into war, and you know, it's like, you almost kind of have that build-up where you're like, you're supposed to love them when they're out in the cornfields, running around naked, slapping dicks together, and then, next thing you know, they're standing next to each other, you know, fighting it out in, like, the mud, you know, in the jungle, and so on. And I think it's something just kind of interesting
like,
about
there's like the girlfriend, like, you come back now, you hear? We're getting married when you get back, you know, out in the cornfield or wherever the fuck.
Yeah. Be like, you and Tommy aren't there slapping dicks again, are you? Like, oh, no, Mary. No, we're going to get married, damn it. That's right. Married all the way. And then next thing you know, it just cuts to him like in a cockpit being flown over Germany. But, you know, because that was like something like 1917 did the same thing too, where it's just like fucking slice that beginning part off, you're in the fucking war. Start fucking running, boy. Deliver that message. So it's like, I don't know, I kind of like that, like in these war movies, it's kind of there, where it's just, this always sounds kind of, like, you always sound like a douchey kid when you say this, but it's like, remember being like a kid and you'd almost like fast forward the VHS in a war movie past the beginning, just so you can start getting to the action? It's almost like somebody thought, be like, you know what, little Billy over there at 8 years old always fast forwards the VHS, let's just cut that part off, it'll save us money anyways.
I'll say this, knowing this is a Roland Emmerich movie, it kind of... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go for whatever you're saying.
Knowing this is a Roland Emmerich movie, he does kind of fall into one of his two categories. He's either blowing shit up or making a movie about Shakespeare or gay rights. It's like one or the other, you know?
Yeah, or there's some type of sci-fi in there too, but that doesn't happen as much anymore.
Well, I mean, you know, usually sci-fi movies involve blowing shit up most of the time.
That's true, but yeah, number 5, Midway, very badass movie, cool story, good history.
All right, that's your number 5. My number, let me get my list back out. My number 4 is this one. I'm not sure if you saw this. And I'll be honest, seeing the trailer to this, I didn't think this was going to be anywhere on my list, but surprised me. Klaus, Netflix movie.
Oh, is this the Santa Claus one you told me about?
Yeah, you know what? If you told me an animated Santa Claus movie would be on my list, I wouldn't have probably believed you, but that is a very, very good movie. Not because it's just one of those things of like, you know, it's a Christmas movie going into it, but it doesn't really start off being a Christmas movie. It kind of builds up to being a Christmas movie. And it does this more grounded down, like, how did Santa Claus legend start and how did it build up from there? And essentially, there's this this guy who's voiced by Jason. He's the bad guy. He's the bad guy in Scott Pilgrim. I forget his name, but that you know what I'm talking about.
The main bad guy.
The main bad guy in Scott Pilgrim. He voices the main character Jasper.
Okay.
Anyway, Jason something. Schwinsberg? I don't know, something like that. Anyway, he is in like this postal academy, and the whole thing with the post service there, they treat like the military. It's very serious. But he's like, you know what? His dad is like the head of it, and so he just kind of slacks off, does whatever he wants, doesn't do anything. Like, you know what? I'm tired of fucking coming up with excuses for you. I tried to get you a real job for a while. And he kind of has a little bit of that Emperor's New Groove, David Spade character kind of feel to him, the main character, Jasper. So I'm going to send you to this town in the middle of nowhere, out in the fucking snow, and you're going to learn to be a fucking man. And if you cannot make a functioning post office system there within like a year or whatever, then you're cut off from the family trust and you're on your own. So fuck you. Time to grow up. So he gets out there, and it's this town. There's these two families that are constantly feuding and constantly fighting, and that's what this whole town goes off of. And then, you know, for almost a whole year, he's trying... Hello? Delay. Sorry.
Oh, just keep going.
Oh, okay. So, for almost a whole year, he's trying to make this thing happen. And the writing is very clever. It's actually pretty, like, quick-witted dialogue. Even though there is some kid jokes here and there, it's nothing that's too bad. It's actually, you know, very quick. And it's one of those things where trying to build this up, he's kind of running low on time. And then he finds out, oh, wait, there's a house I missed way out in the woods. So he goes out in the woods, and there's this old woodsman, this massive old woodsman, voiced by J.K. Simmons, named Klaus. And he sees this guy has all these toys, and I think something happens. Like, he came across, like, earlier, the kid drew a picture. He happened to have the picture, and it was a kid, like, stuck in this house. And Klaus found the picture after he went up there, and then came out. He thinks Klaus wants to axe murder him, more or less. But he says, like, I want you to take me so we can give this kid this toy. So they go there in the middle of the night, and there's this kind of, you know, comical, slapsticky thing where he has to go through to get the toy. But then after that, the kid's like, oh, well, can you send a letter to Mr. Klaus? Because that way I want to, if I get a letter to him, then he gives me a toy, right? So like, yeah. So he kind of makes a little bit of this scheme to get kids to give him letters, because he has to make a certain quota to get out of there. So he's getting all these kids to give letters, like, "Oh, hey man, the word about what you're doing is spreading, and people really like it. So really help if you go give these kids some more toys, and they'll send more letters." And you know, he doesn't really know that he has ulterior motives. But then, out of that, it has this whole moral of, you know, you do one good thing for someone else do another good thing. One good act of kindness will spark another. So then the town slowly starts to get better because they get the idea of like chores and whatnot. And usually when they're going out and doing all this house hopping and Christmas shit, after a while, out of coincidences, certain things happen. Like, oh, that's how they got reindeer. Oh, that's why he goes down the chimney. Oh, that's the milk and cookies thing coming from.
Interesting. Yeah, that one's what sounds like a real good movie, and I never got around to seeing it. Mostly, it sounds so weird. I don't know what it is. Like, when movies are in theaters, like, I have such a higher chance of seeing it that, like, if they're on Netflix, it always feels like, oh, okay, I don't know what it is. Like, it's just like, I'm never good about watching stuff on Netflix. It has to be something like Motley Crue for me to, like, really be like, oh, okay, I have to watch this. I don't know why that is. You would think it'd be the other way around, be like, oh, it's so easy to watch on Netflix, but it's always like so many things on Netflix I never get around to seeing. And that one sounded very interesting.
So many things about this movie. It's like, well, first off, it looks like it might be 3D, but the thing is, it's actually 2D. And they use a weird 3D kind of texture and shading thing over it. So it's kind of hard to tell. Is this 2D or 3D? But it's actually and I've said this when we first started talking about, when I mentioned it, like, oh, folks, check this movie out. Like maybe 10 or 15 episodes ago. It actually, the biggest selling point for the movie, for me, even though the writing's pretty good, it has a good story, is the art style. The art style is so good, and it's kind of like the animation kind of steals the show. Like, just a lot of the small things that kind of happen throughout of just you can kind of get across of each character's personality just through small little animations and distinctions about them. And something I forgot to mention is they're doing all this, goodwill towards men stuff and trying to build up to the Santa Claus story and myth. The two families that are always feuding, making the whole town go against each other, decide to join forces and try and stop him. But there's this one scene that happens earlier in the movie that just kind of like got that I thought was genuinely pretty funny. And for a while, because he's trying to build up. When it happens, like they kind of treat when he's starting to get the letters and the toys out to the kids, they kind of almost treat it like a drug trade. He's in the shadows, like, hey kids, you want some toys, right? And they start playing like the heavies, how do you like me now kind of thing to it. So it has this whole like, there's this moment period where it has kind of like this montage, which feels like it's out of like a Rise to Power drug movie for a second.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So like something out of like America, like out of American Gangster or Scarface, possibly.
Yeah. No, that one does sound like a fun, interesting movie, and it sounds like, plus, once again, just like Dragon Ball Z, you just don't get enough 2D in life.
Yeah. This movie they were trying to get it to theaters, they're just having trouble selling it, and Netflix was the last place to go. I'm like, all right, we'll take it. Why not? This is
and I think that's just kind of
project. He's a dude that worked for Disney and a couple other. He worked on a couple other movies, but this is the one where he saw it the whole way through. Like, no, this is my passion project. I want to make this, and finally got it made and couldn't sell it, so he took it to Netflix, and now he's nominated for Best Animated Picture. So good for him. Yeah,
it's one of those ones where it's like, yeah, it's that kind of weird thing where it's like everybody wants to kind of get the theaters and they can't get, but like you always take it to Netflix, and it's like, well, yeah, because it costs $30 million less to do that. You literally don't have to advertise a movie by that point. But yeah, that sounds like an interesting one to check out. So, what was that? Your number 4?
That was my 4.
So, my number 4 was Zombieland 2.
I wanted to see that, but didn't get a chance to.
Dude, that movie was like about the perfect sequel you could possibly have. Because, a lot of times, 10 years later, after a movie that's like a long time period sometimes, and certain movies just sometimes don't always like age. We've all seen those kind of sequels before where it's just like the magic just kind of isn't there nearly anymore, or you lose like a certain key member, or something happens. Well, this one, it comes back with the 4 main characters, and I guess it's the upside since it's, a zombie world. It's not like you got that many main characters anyways. But, like, the magic is so still dialed in there. There's never, like, you come back and you have, because it almost feels like they might have this thing where, like, Jesse Eisenberg and, what's her name, Emma Stone, like, they got a relationship going. You almost kind of feel like, is it going to have that classic terrible like sequel kind of thing where like they were they the best of couples in number 1, and then number 2, oh shit, it's falling apart. Like, I think of like things like fucking Transformers 2, or like the second Zorro Antonio Banderas movie. There's so many of those movies, and it's like I fucking hate that kind of storyline where it's like, oh, like, just because, like, they thought it was love of the life, and now everything's just not working. That's so fucking annoying. Like, that's one of those many ones where it's like, when I see that in a movie, I'm always like, fuck that storyline. Like,
it's
this one
a bad
doesn't have it. It is. It's terrible, and it's like, fuck it. It's just stupid. I always, whenever I see a movie that does that, I'm like, God, could you guys not think of anything better? Like, it's like, that's just, to me, I feel like that never works. It never works. Not saying that your movie can't still be decent, but that's always going to be a hindrance on your film. Where this movie, it's like, yeah, they have some problems, but it never has that like that same feel. It has a completely like, they're all kind of it all kind of works out and they're cool with it, and they're not like they're arguing or fighting back and forth and so on like that. And then it kind of throws in something that the little girl or whatever, she's kind of grown up now, and she's like, well, now I want somebody. I mean, Emma Stone's got Jesse Eisenberg, which not the biggest catch, but whatever. And then
can't be picky during the apocalypse.
You got fucking. You can't be picky there and so on. And they're like living in the White House and so on like that. And as it kind of goes on, they even find like a group of like these pretty much like hippie people who don't believe in violence, which kind of makes for like sort of comedy, but it seems like fucking retarded. Like when you're in, the zombie area, you're not going to shoot somebody. Like, no, we're anti-guns and everything like that. And of course, she gets kind of sucked in by like some guitar playing fucking douchebag, to this like commune. So they got to go and save her there. But the whole way through, it's like, yeah, it's got great moments in it. The comedy is awesome. It's got even like some Metallica songs playing there. Like, it never feels pandering. It really is like one of the most dialed in sequels I ever saw. Like, I literally was like, shit, walked out of that movie. I'm like, that's like a 4 out of 4 sequel. Like, just as good as the first one. Like, I think I bought it yesterday because it came out the same thing as Jay and Silent Bob. And I was like, I looked at it. It's like on the bottom of the cover, it just says like, literally just as good as the first one. I'm like, oh, that's kind of how I felt. That's like when a quote in a box actually is accurate.
Well, that's definitely one I wanted to check out. Just think around. I'll be honest. I'm really tired of zombie shit. Zombie shit went from being one of those, dude, let's make a zombie movie, or let's make a zombie script, or let's make a zombie comic, to one of those things like, I'm fucking done with zombies. And there's literally one that came out called The Dead Don't Die, starred Kylo Ren, Bill Murray, Iggy Pop, and some other people, and I'm like, yeah, I should, but I don't care. But then seeing Zombieland 2, I was like, well, you know what? Maybe Zombieland 2 is... maybe I can make room for that one. I can possibly make room for that.
Yeah, because that was weird. Like, the Bill Murray one, I remember, like, that one, like... I just saw the trailer for him. Like, that movie doesn't even look fucking good in the trailer. Like, and that's the thing. It's the weirdest thing is because, like, zombies, like, in, like, the late 90s, 2000s, like, zombies were, like, one of the coolest things for me. And then, like, pretty much The Walking Dead pretty much ruined zombies. If at the end of the day... I mean, I guess you could say they were almost getting ruined kind of before that, but, like, I feel like The Walking Dead is the one that sealed in the nail where it's like, oh, zombies are kind of annoying and stuff like that. But there's still certain classics that, it's like, if, Resident Evil can always do zombies, and that's always fine. There's certain brands that's totally fine. And Zombieland's actually even one of those ones, like, when you think about, like, when Zombieland 1 came out, that felt like that was, like, the tail end of the zombie popularity. Like, when that movie kind of came out, you're like, oh, yeah, zombies are going to be dead. Like, people aren't going to watch zombie movies in, like, 2 more years. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to be so burnt out by this point. And then, lo and behold, of course, that was, like, when the 2000s of, like, the Walking Dead, like, kind of fan bases came out. And that to me just felt like that brought in, like, oh, here's all the people that fucking would have laughed at you for liking zombies in 2001. And now these people think that zombies is the greatest thing ever. Fuck those people. But Zombieland's one of those ones that's like... Zombieland's the one I feel like, that's a classic. They got it dialed in. And I think it's kind of a comedy, too, at the same time. Like, it sort of works out. And you got fucking Woody Harrelson. Who doesn't fucking like Woody Harrelson in there? But, no, that one still kind of, like, says, like, you know what? That's fine. If there's one zombie movie you're going to watch in, like, the last couple of years, that's one to go with.
I'll say this. It was kind of like, I think zombie shit was... 2 things were done with me for zombie shit. When somebody I saw, who I know does not like zombie shit, had, like, one of those, like... face, like one of those little God, what do you like, kind of an Instagram face filter thing where it makes you look like a zombie or whatever. When somebody who I know does not like zombie shit had that, and then when Sonora started doing the zombie walk, and I just thought, okay, it's a party where people just hang out and they're dressed like zombies. It's kind of like a Halloween thing. Like, oh no, they all literally walk down the street like zombies. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm done. I see little kids dressed like zombies and all that with their parents. Like, I'm just... no. I'm kind of done with zombie shit. And the thing, that Dead Don't Die movie, if that came out, like, in 2010, I know I would have been all over, like, Bill Murray and Iggy Pop, zombie movie, but then, like, I'm fucking done. I'm fucking done with it. But... I would be willing to give Zombieland 2 a chance, though. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those ones like that. That's one of the ones. A few. It's not like fucking zombie walks. God,
it feels like every other cheap sci-fi or Netflix show is a zombie show too.
Yeah, it's just like I felt like, you know what the zombie walks really did? They did the thing where like it almost reminds me of like, you know, like when you have something that's so cool and it's only like you and your friends are really into it and like everybody else thinks you're fucking weird for being into it. You're like almost kind of like a metal band or something like that, you know. And then all of a sudden it's like you go to the street and it's just like you see like the entire fucking neighborhood's like, yeah, we love this band. It's just like the oldest, fattest fucks just walking down the street with like that T-shirt on. You know, and they like hit fucking like, you know, 5-year-old nephew, and it's like, yeah, it's good for the kids too. And it's like it's a family thing, and it's just like it ruins like your like fucking cool like fucking cult club that you had. Like that's pretty much what the zombie walks did. It's like because that was like what zombies used to be. Is they used to be the cool cult like fucking weird dark, you know. You know, that kind of like era, and then it's like now it's just like, oh, it's a happy, you know, yeah, look at me, I just blew my head off with a shotgun. Oh, I'm gonna go back to work at the office. You know, it's just like, oh, fucking bullshit. But whatever. Fucking, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is. Let's see here. My number 3. This is gonna start to speed up a little bit. Art of Self-Defense. Love that movie.
Ooh, we
already covered.
You had that movie really high up on there.
I did because I've never seen I never really seen like a theatrical movie kind of have that type of like surrealist kind of like quasi adult swim type humor thing. And just some of the small things in that movie, kind of like I think the guy's name was Casey or something like that. Like, hi, I'm calling for Casey Sullivan or something. Like, oh, this is Casey Sullivan. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was you're a woman. It's a woman sounding name. Anyway, like just like things like that, you know, just like people say really rude shit, just as if it's not a big deal. Sorry, I'm dying here.
Yeah. No, well, that is the truth. That movie is definitely way, you know, different than like anything else, and I think that's why I like it so much. Is it's not like any other movie. I wish that movie was actually a theatrical, like a worldwide release though, because I would have loved to see that in theaters.
Same thing here.
You know, because it was like it just kind of like came out to small theaters and then kind of straight to DVD. But God, yeah, like it is one of those ones. It's so weird and different. It's like one of those ones like it's not a movie I can imagine sitting down and watching it like all the time, but just one of those ones like I'll always think about that movie for the rest of the time. I know for a fact.
Well, I always kind of think, and I won't stay on this movie too long because we already talked about it, but I always kind of think, like, you kind of have sometimes those weird jokes, and then you just kind of, like, how do I put it? Like, weird jokes that you might see, like, in something animated, and then it just kind of carries on, no big deal. But this one's in live action, and for some reason, in live action, it just kind of... It's way more effective, but at the same, not way more, maybe not way more effective, but it's just as effective, but you're just not used to seeing it in live action. Just the way they kind of talk and move. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure if I'm getting this across just right. Because they have this weird kind of surrealist thing. Like most movies, you'd be thinking, you wouldn't do that in real life. In real life, you go to a jail, you get arrested. But in this movie, it's just like, I killed him. Why? I didn't like him. Okay, well, you know, not a big deal. I guess this is your place now. All right, cool. You know, like that kind of, like, I don't know, just something about that just stands out to me. And I find that, you know, funny. I want to see more movies do that, but not too often because I don't want it to get, like, ruined or become a new trend, you know?
You don't want to be like zombies.
Yeah, exactly.
But, okay, we'll go into my number 3. This makes it quick. My number 3 is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh, that one was pretty high up for you too. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
that one I realized I like. No, that one's both ones like we've talked about. It feels like I guess extensive because we even had like the episode and so on it and so on and what have you. But no, yeah, that one to me is just like it's solid all the way through. I think it's like a 4 out of 4. Like I enjoy it. Like it's the perfect hangout movie like Jackie Brown and. I like it all the way around. Plus, you get to watch Bruce Lee fight Brad Pitt. I mean, I know it's not exactly Bruce Lee, but damn, does that guy play a good Bruce Lee?
And Ryu.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, my number 2 is Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, is that the little like Hitler Youth movie?
Yeah, it's done by Taika Waititi, and essentially it's this movie about it kind of goes in the thing that you've said a few times. That you've said, like, you know what? I know that Nazis and Nazism is bad, but there were those people back then just going through their job, or they didn't know better at the time, and this movie kind of tackles that. It kind of goes out of the way and said, like, this little kid, he's not a bad kid. He was just a product of his environment, and he's this little kid who's socially awkward. He's really weird. Hitler is his imaginary friend. He has this blind fanaticism, and it kind of says, like, you know what? Essentially, at the end of the day, even though this movie's really funny, at the end of the day, it says, like, kids don't need to be getting roped up in politics and war. Just be a fucking kid. And kind of says, you know, it kind of, you see this story about this little Hitler youth kid who is socially awkward, who is really afraid, who is really timid, but at the same time, Hitler's, like, biggest fan. And you find out that, you know, his mom is hiding a Jewish girl, and his mom is totally pro, like, anti-Nazi, totally anti-Nazi all the way, but she kind of keeps that hidden from him. And out of that, she's hiding this Jewish girl in the play, and he kind of starts to become friends with her. First, he's all like, "What? Like, where are your horns?" You know, all this stuff that, you know, all this propaganda type shit, and it has some of that kind of more, like, once again, kind of surrealist, kind of like humor that you might see in, like, a Taika Waititi film, or even something kind of like something like Art of Self-Defense. Like, there's a part where, like, because everybody in the movie just speaks with a bad accent. There's some dark moments in there, but there's still, like, I think this part was meant to be dark, but at the same time, kind of funny at the same, like, it is, like, at the end of the movie when everything's going to shit and their town's getting attacked by Americans. You see, like, Rebel Wilson's character, like, putting like a suicide vest on a kid. Like, okay, Hans, go give that American boy a hug, and just, like, runs off screen. Like, you know, so, like, so, you know, it's like fucked up shit like that, but at the same time, and there is a point where the movie reaches a certain level where it does, like, here's the harsh reality of war. I bet you didn't see this coming for how lighthearted the first part of this movie was, because it is very kind of cartoonish in the way it presents things. Sam Rockwell fucking steals the show, because he is a SS officer who has had a long, outstanding military career, but he's not a fan of Hitler. He's not a fan of the current administration, and he has one eye by this point, so he's kind of vindictive, and he's like, all right, what am I doing? You know, whatever. And there's a few points where it kind of gets across that, like, he doesn't like what he's doing. He's just doing it because he has to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of these things where it's, you know, I think at this point in time, I think this is kind of like a movie that's really, you know, kind of, I'm not going to say it generates sympathy for Nazis, not at all, because I heard somebody like, this movie's a Nazi sympathist movie. He's like, no, it's not. You didn't see the fucking movie, clearly, or you didn't get it. But it's a movie that is genuinely funny and genuinely pretty heartfelt, and it kind of gets heavy and dark in moments where you know it's there because you know what the subject matter is, but it comes in ways you don't really expect.
Huh, interesting. Yeah, this was once, I remember there was, like, they played, like, one trailer for it once, and then the movie kind of just disappeared and then came straight out on DVD, like, way later on. And it was just like, I just never got around to ever seeing it because it just kind of, like, came and went real fast. But it looked kind of interesting. Like, I remember in the trailer, it was a mixture. It was like, I was kind of interested, but it also looked kind of retarded at the same time. Because, like, it was like, they were selling it kind of weird. Because they were selling it kind of like, oh, it's got some goofy humor in it, too. Like, and I was like, what? Is this a war movie, or is this like a slapstick, like, comedy? And I remember that was what kind of threw me off a little bit.
It's quasi-slapsticky, but at the same time, it doesn't shy away. It's pretty well made. It's kind of a little bit more artsy in some ways. It doesn't shy away from having a heavy-handed moment. And at the same time, the further the movie goes, not saying it loses all sense of humor, but the further it goes, it starts to be like, we're not having as much fun as we did when we first started, because when it first starts, it's all like this boy who's super optimistic and super like, yay, I'm going to be part of a club, you know, and then you're like, oh, here's what that club's really all about. And it's, like I said earlier, his imaginary friend is Hitler. And it's just some of the things he does, like the first part, when Hitler's first brought in, he's kind of presented as comic relief, like, oh, hey, you know, kind of telling him everything he wants to hear, but at the same time, bad advice. And then as it goes on, he becomes this overarching bully yelling at him, you know, telling him to get his shit together.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'd like to see that one at some point. It sounds like, yeah, it just sounds like something a little bit different.
No, it's pretty good. I really liked it.
Well, if that's your number two, my number two is Battle Angel Alita, and I just kind of realized that Robert Rodriguez outbeat Quentin Tarantino on my list.
Well, I know that Robert Rodriguez, at least back when we were in high school, Robert Rodriguez was more your guy.
Yeah, well, he always was. It seems like the last 10 years he just he hasn't really made a whole lot. So I feel like it's kind of like I guess I need somebody else to root for now because he's just not making things like he used to. But this is a perfect example of oh fuck, Robert Rodriguez on all fucking cylinders fired off, as well as you got James Cameron sitting there being like, well, I ain't gonna fucking direct, but I'll produce, you know. I'll fucking drive. I'll drive the little fucking submarine, and you make the movie. But this is for example of I thought this is because they've been making comic book movies, but now they've just started making manga and anime movies, and this is kind of I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 of live action. Man, there's some Japanese ones or so. I'm thinking the big ones have kind of come out in theaters and so on. I feel Battle Angel Alita's where they've really got that fucking just dialed in. They just take from the first couple graphic novels or books or whatever you want to call them, and it just feels like they captured the whole characters, captured the world. I mean, really, everything is there. You got what's his name from Inglourious Bastards is playing Ido, pretty much the main scientist guy that puts Alita back together and so on. What the heck's that guy's name? I love that guy. He's in
Christoph
007.
Waltz.
Yeah, Christoph Waltz. Yeah, so you got him in there and so on. And yeah, they just got the whole world and all the characters are in there. Everybody's kind of in there, the whole storyline and whatnot. It's super accurate. They don't really change anything. Everything kind of works. I mean, really the only, my only, most minor complaint is the movie's PG-13. And I get it kind of works that way. But I kind of wish it was rated R. Because, you read the manga or you watch the anime, and it is, super gory violent. And it's just missing just that little bit of that. Now, granted, I know everybody's mostly kind of a robot, so sometimes it's kind of well, robots don't have real feelings, so it's okay if you tear their arm off.
Only thing I know about Battle Alita...
And that's about my only thing. Oh, I said that's about if that's my only complaint is that I wish there was a rated R, or I wish there was just an R cut. But I mean, I kind of get it because it's you have I think sometimes especially when you're trying to sell a movie in the U.S. when you got a 15-year-old kind of 16-year-old character in there, it's kind of hard to be oh yeah, by the way, this movie's gonna be super gory and violent. You know what I mean? But we want to try to sell it to everybody.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only thing I've ever known about Battle Little Angel, the only thing I've ever seen, I know the manga's big and I think it's still going on, but the only thing I've ever seen is the OVA. And that ends pretty early on in the series arc. I know that. But at the same time, I was interested in seeing this movie. It just really jumped out to me. And here's the thing about it. It was sad because it's one of those movies. I started to have bad, oh man, I really hope this movie turns out being good, because I was hearing it kept on getting postponed. It got postponed 3 times, which is very unlikely for a Robert Rodriguez movie. His movies always come out at this time. But it got postponed 3 times. Oh shit, I hope that's not a good sign. But then it came out and people were oh no, this movie's actually very underrated. This is a movie that I heard some people criticizing. I wish there was more of this, more of that. But overall, this movie's way better than people are giving it credit for. And I didn't see it, but that's just what I heard. And it was definitely on my list of things I wanted to see before the year was up.
Yeah, this is one of those ones, I saw it twice in theaters, I liked it a lot. It was one of those ones, it was super fucking good, and yeah, it's just one of those ones, as far as, an adaptation goes, it's so accurate, too. It's, one of those things where you're I wish, you almost kind of watch and go, I wish more movies would kind of do this, and I mean, it kind of might combine certain things and, make it kind of fit more into a movie and so on, but, and it's that OVA one, that covers kind of, a very similar, range that this story kind of goes with too. This one's kind of a little bit longer than the OVA, but it's that same first couple books. In a sense, the first 2 books with a little bit of number 3 in there. But yeah, hopefully
spoiling. Oh, good.
Oh yeah, you go ahead. What are you gonna say?
Sorry, man, the delay here. The without spoiling too much, does it go into the thing where the kid, actually the guy, like doesn't realize he gets fucked up and becomes a robot at some point?
It's got a bit of that kind of going in there. Like you'll see it when you do, but it does have that
So
kind
we're
of bit
watching
in
that.
there.
I'm like, man, if they
And-
choose to do this, because we're watching it, like if they choose to do this in the movie, that's gonna be fucking crazy.
Yeah, the only thing is it doesn't have like nearly that dark violent feel that like the book and like the movie kind of or the OVA one sort of have. Like that's about the only thing. So it would be kind of cool just to see just those like super like violent, gory like finishers and so on. But yeah, hopefully they do make a sequel. I mean, I know that's kind of like because one of the movies that kind of still I think those anime movies are kind of hard unless it's fucking Dragon Ball Z Brawly like. It's hard to sell these live action anime movies, I think, still. I just don't think there's just a big enough audience for it yet. But this Alita does have like this like rabid fan basis for this movie. Like there is these people I made a comment once to Alita about like how much I like the movie, and all of a sudden it was like fucking people just kind of came in and be like, join the Alita army. You are one now. It's like, oh, what the fuck is this shit? Oh,
One
God.
of us, one of us, one of us.
I mean, don't get me wrong, fuck, it's number 2 on my fucking list. I like Alita that much, and like the graphic novels, because to me, like the reason I knew about Alita from back in the day is, remember when you'd have like your Viz comics of like, it didn't matter what it was, like Dragon Ball Z or Pokemon or something like that, they always had fucking a picture of like Alita in the back, and you're like, what the fuck is this stuff? There was just a couple of those ones. It was like Alita, like Ramna 1/2, and like Ghost in the Shell. Those like the 3 things I just remember always seeing, like, what is this? I gotta know.
Maybe Evangelion.
Yeah, maybe Evangelion, but like, yeah, because I think Alita's kind of one of those ones, like, it sort of dipped down, like, it's kind of like a very 90s thing, and then, I think there is always some kind of book coming out, but it's not like, I think, technically, like, when they made this sort of movie, it's almost kind of a weird one, because you're like, oh, you're making an anime that, like, yeah, there's people who like this one, but it is kind of like, oh, that's kind of weird, it's kind of like almost like 20 years a little bit late, but it still totally works.
I know this is one that James Cameron was trying to make since the 90s. Like, technology's not there yet. And by the time that he was I think he was too busy with Avatar. So I'm like, well, I'll just produce it. Robert, you make it.
Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. It has really good special features on it, where it is kind of like James Cameron talking about, like, yeah, somebody gave me a book once and it was fucking in Japanese and I was fucking pissed, but I looked at it and I was like, oh, this is pretty badass. And then I started reading them all.
Makes James mad. It's when he can't read what's in front of him. I'm like, you read it to
me.
me.
It's just like that kind of like the whole process of kind of getting it and trying to make it and so on. So very neat stuff. But yeah, Battle Angel Alita, that's my number 2.
Okay, my number 1. We can make this one quick, and we already talked about this one a lot. My number 1 is Avengers Endgame, and that might sound a little kind of basic, throwing that one on there. But at the end of the day, if I'm being 100% honest with myself, no movie has really pulled that off before, has built that many movies up to something that big and had it be very satisfying and fulfilling. At the same time, still having it being very, like, having kind of an emotional center to it. And at the same time, just like, that movie is 3 hours long and it goes by quickly. And God, I feel like I can rewatch that movie a lot. And maybe it's not the best. I mean, it's a very well made movie, but maybe it's not like the most artistic movie out there. But fuck, it's a really damn good movie. And I can't think of a movie that had me more. And it wasn't like I wasn't, not that I wasn't looking forward to the movie when to go to see it. I figured I'd like it, but I liked it so much more than I thought I would. And, it's just one of those movies that just kind of checked off all the boxes, and I really can't think of anything wrong. There's maybe things that kind of stood out to me when I first walked out of the theater, like, Fat Thor got a little old after a while, but then watching the movie again, I'm like, you know what, I totally get why they did Fat Thor, and watching it a second time around, Fat Thor, even though he's kind of funny, it's more of like kind of sad when you look at it, and you kind of get why they kind of lean more on that. They present it as a joke, then it becomes more of a serious thing as it goes on. So yeah, Avengers Endgame is my number 1, just because I think it checks all those boxes and does it all very well.
Well, and I always think too, when it comes down to like the best movie for like anyone's list, I always think at the end of the day, the fun factor and rewatchability factor is always the one I think that kind of outweighs everything else. You know what I mean? Like there could be a movie that maybe is like artistically put together better or maybe more well done or better written, but whatever movie you're gonna slap into your Blu-ray player over and over again, that's the movie I feel that like no matter what is like the choice, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But going to my number one's going to be a very, very fucking like controversial choice. But to me, this is one of those. Huh?
It always is usually.
Oh, it mostly always is, but like this one's definitely one that's going to fucking like roll some heads. But I don't know. As well as movies where like I didn't think anything of it. This was just literally like, oh, another one of these movies is coming out. Sure, let's go fucking see it. You know why? Because it's fucking Thursday and I don't got anything better to do at nighttime. Like. And then it just turned out to be like, it was like, oh fuck, this the whole way through, it's fucking amazing. Like, the action's fantastic, the story's great, they fit in all kinds of characters and modes and so on, and then they got fucking, great, like, the comedy actually works, there's never, like, a stupid joke in there or anything like that, it's just all perfect the whole way through. And that movie was the new Hellboy. That new Hellboy was so fucking good.
You know what? I didn't finish it yet. I started it and I liked what I saw, but then I didn't have a chance to finish it just yet. I'm about halfway through it, and I'll just get my half-assed part of it done, so I didn't even see the whole movie yet. But first off, I didn't finish it, so I can't throw it on my list. Secondly, I don't know if it would make my list, but I think people are being a little too harsh on it. I know there is a little bit of a campiness to it, but at the same time, I think Hellboy is meant to be a little campy because it is kind of like 1940s, 50s, like Indiana Jones style movie serials, Buck Rogers with H.P. Lovecraft and 50s mad scientist shit. So and old fantasy. So I was just surprised. Not that I know Hellboy that well, but I was surprised to see Lobster Johnson in there for a second. Like, oh shit, that's and I don't really know Hellboy that well, but I know of that character. I'm like. They took their time to throw in Lobster Johnson? Okay, all right.
Well, that's the thing, too. It's like, I really don't really know a whole lot about Hellboy other than, like, the movies. But, like, it's like, I kind of have, like, more, like, an idea of, like, what Hellboy sort of always has been and so on. And it's just that, yeah, it's that classic adventure style, like, going out and whatnot. But then you got this demon guy who almost gives it sort of this kind of heavy metal, almost like a Lobo kind of feel to it. Like that 80s, 90s heavy metal fucking dude. Going out, fixing the world's problems of, like, ancient days and so on. But, like, yeah, like, it's one of those movies, like when I watched it in theaters, nobody, was saying anything about it yet. And then all of a sudden people were talking crap. I'm like, and I couldn't figure it out because I'm like, dude, this entire movie's fucking perfect. Like, I mean, like, literally perfect. It's got, fucking the action throughout it. And then, like, not only that, it's like, it's shot so well. There's, like, the part where he's battling the fucking giants and it's, like, one continuous take. I mean, granted, I know it's, like, CG, so it's not, like, the same as, like, other stuff. But still, it looks so fucking cool. And then, like, the other thing, too, because this is sort of what was kind of, I always felt was missing in the first two Hellboy movies, is though those movies are good, they're kind of like the solid, like, they're good movies. There's nothing really amazing about them, but they're just a solid, good film. They're not like one of those ones where it's like a Dark Knight or something where you're like, oh, fuck, this is something perfect. I always felt like those movies, though, by being PG-13, like, I always felt that was the biggest thing that they're kind of missing. It's kind of like one of those ones, like, having this new Hellboy be rated R and having the brutalness in it and the super violence is just... that makes up for so much. It's like one of those ones, once again, it's like the Battle Angel Alita. Like, who knows how much more, if you would have put some just brutal violence in there, would have really topped that film off. Now, that one could kind of almost get a little bit more away with it, but I think the Hellboy needs that more than anything else. And then I think this new guy playing Hellboy is literally just as good. I think some people just did that thing where they're just like, they just literally like, not saying Hellboy, not my Hellboy. Like, they just did that kind of thing. Like, did you watch the movie? No! And it's just like, well, yeah, with that fucking attitude.
Do you know who that guy is?
No, I have no idea who he is. I've never really seen him before in anything else.
He's, I'm not sure how much of the show you saw. He's that washed-up sheriff from Stranger Things, and he's also playing the Red Guardian in the Black Widow movie.
Oh, okay.
Russian Captain
Okay,
America.
yeah, I kind of know, yeah, from like the trailer and so on. Well, that's kind of cool. Well, I thought that guy was fucking so dialed in as fucking Hellboy. Like, I was sold the whole way through. I thought he like nailed it. And this movie just like, to me, it felt like it was cramming in all kinds of lore. Like not like like you're kind of like overwhelmed, but like a lot that. Where like some movies do the thing where like, I gotta take like the old fashioned superhero movie where you have one villain, one hero, maybe a third type character who's not really of any importance, but that's all the movie is. Where this movie just felt like, oh, there's just so much stuff fucking going on in just one singular film. And it also does the thing too where it sort of like jumps in and like you already know who Hellboy is. It's not trying to give you an origin story. Like, I don't know, I just thought as far as a comic book movie goes, you really couldn't get it like better made than this fucking Hellboy. I do not know what anybody's really bitching about in this movie. Unless, I mean, there might be like some super Hellboy like person who's read every comic and be like, oh, they're off on this part over here, or some, one of those kind of people. I don't know. I'm going in like a Guardians of the Galaxy kind of thing, even though I feel like I have more of a knowledge of Hellboy than Guardians, at first, but I don't know. Like, as far as a movie goes, I love it. Even, like, I just really rewatched it because I wanted to watch it one more time. I'm like, well, maybe it's just, like, is this one of these movies where it's just, like, I was just really blown away with it the first couple times or whatever? And it's like, no, watching it again, it's like, it's super fucking good from start to finish. It's like, out of all these movies this year, this is the one that I would definitely watch, over and over and stuff. And I think also, too, it's like, I went into the theater just kind of expecting to be like, it'll be another Hellboy. It'll be fun. And, that'll probably be about the ending takeaway. And then it was just like, oh shit, this movie's like super dialed in, And I think that was the thing too. It's like when I tell people I like this movie more than Avengers Endgame, it like throws them the fuck off. Like I just like told them that like I like fucking the devil like way more than like Jesus or something while I'm in like in a church. But it is like one of those ones that's like. The thing is like I knew Endgame was gonna be good. Like what I mean. Like at the end of the day, you knew that was gonna be good. Like the Hellboy I never saw a trailer for it. I never saw anything. I just knew there was a Hellboy movie coming out, and that was it. So I was going in blind. It's just like, it's not like, Hellboy was more felt like, it's another comic book movie. Might as well go see it, what I mean? But it wasn't like it was like my kind of comic book. Like there was like something like, oh man, I fucking read every single book and everything. It's like a character that I've always wanted to, but you know how it is. There's so many comics, only enough time in the day to read as many as you can. And I think that also like just kind of tops off because you go in, you're like, holy fuck, this movie's good.
Yeah, I still got to finish it. I liked what I saw. I'm still kind of leaning towards more, not trying to, kick dirt in your eye or nothing. I'm still leaning a little bit more towards Guillermo del Toro, kind of. Just more his aesthetic. Not so much of, like, the writing. Because the writing in his movies are a little clunky and a little kind of forced humor at times. But the aesthetic I liked more. And this, but at the same time, I still kind of like a lot of the creature stuff in this. I just think maybe the previous studio or the people that work for Guillermo had a better idea of how to make that look a particular way. Though there are certain characters, like I could totally see that character in Mike Mignola's art style. Like there's the Warthog Changeling guy. Like some of the things they would do for like pull from lore, like the whole thing about changelings, how fairies would swap like a look-alike baby, and then when no one's looking, the baby turns into some ugly monster, in this case a pig.
Yeah, I know. I just felt like it had all kinds of cool lore and had the King Arthur-ness into it and whatnot. And you got Mila Jovovich as like the evil witch. I mean, I don't know that like I was
her being in there made it feel like, oh, is this a 2003 movie?
Oh yeah, I guess it does kind of like she's not in as much stuff I guess nowadays, but I don't know. She's in the Resident Evil movie. What was that like? Well, I guess it was like 3 or 4 years ago, the last one.
Well, if she's not doing that, it's like okay, like it's like Ultraviolet or something like that,
Yeah, I know, like in her prime time when she was just like in everything. But no, like yeah, that Hellboy movie, I just think to me. So perfect, so badass, like whole way through. Like I was totally sold. I feel like it's gonna be like a Dread. It's gonna be one of those movies that's like practically perfect, but there's not gonna be a sequel to it.
It might, yeah. Who knows? You never know. I'm joking. Like I'm not trying to bring down Mila Jovovich too much because I know she's in a very particular type of movie, but there's that period where she was in a bunch of those movies all right in a row after another for like a period of time. But her as some queen, I think I left off on the part where she's watching TV and she's all dismembered and just like all right, that's kind of clever, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they just got out. There's so much cool stuff going on in that movie. I just think it's a full package deal film, you know, that I can't highly recommend, you know, anymore to like just people. Especially people that like to have fun and like brutal and like, you know, violence. That's what this movie's for. If you hate fun, then you probably don't. You're probably one of those people that doesn't like this movie. Yeah, because that's the thing. Whenever I hear people like, "Oh, the movie fucking sucks," like, did you fucking watch it? No. Well, then get the fuck out of here. I don't know what the fuck you're into, but whatever it is, I don't want to be a part of it.
Well, I want to finish it. I like what I saw. I'm not like in love with it yet, but I like what I saw, and I want to finish it. So yeah.
But boom, there's our list of 2020, gone on for a long time. I started thinking about halfway through this. I'm like, God, we almost need to get like an egg timer out for our fucking movie list. You know what I mean? Just be like, okay, you got fucking 6 minutes. Go. Because
we can always split this one into two. I mean, shit, we just split this one into two just because, you know, it's been a minute. We've missed a few weeks, so you know.
Yeah,
last one was a Christmas special.
And cheers, there's always people that want to jump on with us on these episodes, and I always go like, I just don't know. It's like, I already know how long it goes with just me and you. You add anybody else, and especially, you know, a lot of times everybody else has like completely different movies too, and it's like the more different movies you have, the longer it takes. The similar your list is, the quicker it goes by. But
this year our list was pretty different from one another too.
I know. I think we only had like 2 or 3 crossovers. I noticed that recently we've been drifting apart from the same movies, because if you go back about 3 or 4 years ago, they used to be like almost like 7 out of 10 of our movies would be about the same, different orders maybe, but like the same, and now they're like almost kind of like 2 different lists.
Not to sound all like sad about it, but I think that's a big thing is like, well, we would go see every movie together because we got to do a podcast. Let's go see a movie. So we saw the same movies together. Now it's like we live in different cities, so it's kind of like, well, did you see this one? I'll go see that one. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like it's one of those ones because you're not going. I think that's exactly what it is that you're not going to see movies together like all the time. Like that kind of creates sort of a different path. But yeah, 2020. Even though it was like an odd year where it's like the best movies mostly all appeared in the beginning of the year, strangely enough. That to me, that's not a bad thing because I personally always think that the better movies always appear mostly in the beginning anyways, but just weird that that's just how it sort of rolled all in all. But yeah, guess that's a good place to kind of wrap it all up with. So make sure to check out oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, comic books like Pizza Boys, that's Pizza Boys of a Z, and all that other fun merchandise and good times on there. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan.
We'll see you some other time.
Thanks again for listening to the Old Man Orange podcast. Sure, check out oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, cartoons, music, animation, and a whole lot more. We also have the Old Man Orange blog going with all kinds of fun stuff. If you easily want to support the show, use one of our Amazon links either on the website or in the description of the podcast below. Rate, review, and subscribe to the show either on Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Newgrounds, or anywhere else that you seem to get this podcast from. Grab the sitcom-styled comic book Pizza Boys on either Comic Central, Comixology, or Amazon. Want more podcasts? Check out the Indie Comics Club over at Comic Central. I also got a workout website called Thor's Hidden Gym, filled with fitness tips and tricks, videos, and a whole lot more fun stuff in the calisthenics world. Talk to us on Twitter at Spencer S. Holmes and Dunigan Ryan. Like our Facebook pages of Old Man Orange Productions and Pizza Boys Comic. Thanks again, we're out of here.